Finally, so I've got to go.
All right, we'll chat. We'll do the chit-chat next week, right?
Okay. It is the 9 till noon show. We have our Friday panel assembling as we speak. We're going to introduce them and hear their views on some of the big stories of the day and the week. That's all coming up after a news update now from Donald Kavanagh.
Thank you, Greg. Good morning. The Taoiseach has told the Dáil he believes the National Standards Authority of Ireland is reviewing its definitions of defective block causes to ensure the latest research on the issue is being reflected. Micheál Martin was responding to independent Donegal TD Thomas Pringle, who pointed out the findings of new research which show the extent to which deleterious materials other than mica are at the heart of the crisis. He says that must be taken into account.
A peer-reviewed study has been published by Andreas Lehmann. The study clearly shows that pyrite and pyrrhotite and other substances are the cause of the defective block issue. The National Standards Authority of Ireland needs to take that on board. Will you contact the National Standards Authority of Ireland to ensure that they amend ISO 465 to reflect this as a matter of urgency?
My understanding is they are reviewing it, and I'll check that again for the Deputy. We are very anxious to keep moving in respect of the mica scheme.
Homeless charities are urging those at risk of eviction to get in touch as soon as possible. The eviction ban will lapse at midnight tonight after being introduced last October. Motions and counter-motions were voted upon in the Dáil this week, but the government will proceed with the ending of the moratorium. Wayne Stanley is Executive Director of Simon Communities of Ireland. He says there are supports for those affected.
Reach out to their local Simon community, reach out to their local authority, reach out to the Citizens Information, gather up as much information as you can, as quickly as you can. This is not your fault. There's nothing to feel ashamed of, or I know people talk about as parents feeling ashamed that they can't provide for their children, or as individuals starting to feel hopeless. People who are at risk of homelessness aren't the cause of this crisis.
A man arrested while trying to flee the country on a flight out of Belfast International Airport remains in police custody. The PSNI say the 31-year-old who was wanted by Gardaí on suspicion of rape was apprehended yesterday. He'll appear at the next available extradition court in Belfast. And Donegal County Council is to liaise with Changemakers Donegal to secure fair trade town status for more areas of the county. At a meeting this week, Councillor Jack Murray successfully moved a motion seeking support to have 3 towns in Inishowen, Buncrana, Ballyliffin and Clonmany designated as fair trade towns. He's also secured a commitment from the council that it will continue to follow fair trade principles. Councillor Murray says it's good that Donegal is seen to be taking the lead.
We know that an entire town have signed up to all the local businesses have agreed that they're supplying fair trade. It's reassuring to us as consumers that we're not exploiting everybody and everybody is getting a fair wage. And I'm delighted that Donegal County Council is one of the biggest employers in the county, are going to lead out in this. They're going to work with Changemakers Donegal. We're going to ensure that any functions that we have, any teas or coffees are supplied within the council, we'll be ensuring that they're sourced in a fair, environmentally friendly way.
Mostly cloudy today with spells of rain or drizzle, heavy at times. Top temperatures 10 to 12 degrees Celsius this afternoon. Moderate northwest breezes developing. Some mist and cloud low on hills. And that's Highland Radio News. We're back with news again at 10 o'clock.
Super Value makes saving money as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. We match Aldi on the products you love. 2. Great special offers like Lure Coffee Pods 20-pack and Pepsi 9-pack cans €5. Exclusive to Real Rewards members only. And 3. Money off vouchers every week on the app. So, follow the 1, 2, 3 and save money at Super Value. T's and C's apply.
And now, it's time for the talk of the Northwest. The 9 to Noon Show with Greg Hughes on Highland Radio.
Hello, good morning. 4 minutes past 9 on this Friday, the 31st of March 2023. You're very welcome along to another edition of the 9 till Noon Show. Great to be back in studio here in Letterkenny. Thanks to Donald for the cover on days during the week. And of course, if you were listening, hopefully you were, we were over in Brussels for a special programme just to see what goes on over there, talk to a lot of the people that make decisions, or at least try to on our behalf. Bumping into students from Donegal who are over there and so on and so forth. If you missed that programme, by the way, I think it's well worth a listen or watch back. It's on our YouTube channel for you to watch back in full, or you can listen back on our website as well. But on to today's programme. And it's a busy one as always. Our Friday panel with us right now. Let's introduce them to you. We'll say good morning first to Councillor Doreen Sheridan Kennedy, former Deputy School Principal and Community Campaigner. Good morning to you, Doreen. Great to see you again.
Good morning, Greg. How are you? I'm glad
good.
I got the title councillor there. I don't know where that came from.
Did I give you the title councillor? Did I?
Thank you very much. You did, yeah. That's okay.
Okay. Well, if it didn't happen, it should have happened. I don't know what's going on. All right, okay. Also, we're joined on the programme by Councillor, definitely a councillor, I think, Micheál Colin McGill-Nasbig, Independent. Good morning to you. Thanks for joining us.
Margin White, Doreen, agus Pat.
Very good to have you with us. And Pat McCart, former managing editor of the Derry Group newspaper and current newspaper columnist, of course, podcaster. We pretty much find you everywhere, Pat.
Yeah, good morning, Greg.
It's good to have you with us. All right,
good morning,
okay.
Doreen, Micheál.
Good morning, Pat.
Right, okay. The reality is the issues of evictions and housing is not going away. We can't ignore it, of course. Why would we today? The Dáil heard claims during the week that government policy will evict thousands of families and working people into homelessness this weekend when the eviction ban is lifted. During heated Dáil exchanges, Taoiseach Micheál Martin stated that an indefinite eviction ban would make matters far worse and create homelessness in the long term. Sinn Féin's Pearse Doherty said there is despair in the country as people are running out of options to put a roof over their heads. Mr Martin responded saying housing is the government's top priority and progress is in fact being made. I'll start with you first, if that's all right, Doreen. Did the government have any other choice? Are they doing the right thing in your view?
Yes, I think they're doing the right thing, and I don't think they had any other choice. And by the same token, the opposition didn't offer any other choice. And the opposition and all their arguing in the Dáil this week really were only looking for it to be postponed. They weren't actually offering anything that was going to be any better than what the government were offering. And I think an awful lot of time was wasted. At the end of this, come the summer term in the Dáil, we'll be wondering why legislation hasn't gone through. To think that so many hours were spent, that's what really annoys me as a citizen, that so many hours were spent on this debate. And I'm not saying it's not important. I think the government side of the House did claim that we know the problems are there. It's not that people within the Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael or the Green Party don't know there's a problem there. They're dealing with it as best they can. And I think it's just scandalous the way things were handled in the Dáil the last day. I'm not sure that the people who chaired the actual Dáil the last day were able for the debate. And perhaps had there been a stronger person in the chair, things wouldn't have been and got out of hand. It was very abusive and very, very wrong in my eyes for a government, for any government sitting of the Dáil to be handled in that way.
Right, it's not the cut and thrust of politics, though.
Well, it is, but it's not what we need when we're talking about an issue that is so sensitive and really is maybe the top priority in the country at the moment for everybody. I'm not saying there aren't issues there, but...
Okay, we seem to have lost your audio, Doreen. I think you've muted yourself. Okay, well, we'll move along. And Pat, I'll put the same question to you. I'll come back to Doreen. I don't think she realised she's muted. What do you think of what do you think of how things have played out over the last couple of weeks? The government survived 3 votes.
Greg, I find what Doreen's after saying a wee bit. I'll not say what I was actually thinking. There's 300,000 apparently hidden homelessness in Ireland. The government has been in power, well, the Fine Gael part of it, for 12 years, and they're now acting as if it's suddenly come on them. The vulture funds have been coming into this country for years, picking up cheap housing and buying on bulk. And it's I don't know. In Donegal alone, I think there's 3,000 people on the housing waiting list. Now the government's acting as the opposition are bad people, suddenly exposing our lack of planning for all this. And I think that's an unbelievable attitude. And by the way, I'm not saying the opposition are totally blameless or anything like that. But I'll tell you this much. Louise O'Reilly got very animated in the Dáil on, I think it was Tuesday or Wednesday, when she looked across at the Darragh O'Brien, the housing minister, and the junior minister, and said, there's a woman I know that has 4 kids. She's going to be made homeless this weekend. Have you any place for her? And the images of the senior minister and the junior minister sitting there with their mouths closed, I thought there was sort of the image of the week in a strange sort of way. So I think there's almost 2 Irelands now. There's the Ireland where you're rich and happy and all the rest of it, and then there's the Ireland where you're paying 2,200 a week or a month in Dublin for rent, and Galway very similar. There's places where you can't afford. By the way, if you're a young teacher or a young nurse or a young Gardaí looking for a house in Dublin, Galway, what's your chance of getting in it? And by the way, notice even in Letterkenny now, the average monthly rent is something like 1,400 quid a month. You need to be earning quite a hell of a lot of money to pay that as well.
Yeah, but of course the opposition don't have ownership of sympathy and empathy and what have you. I mean, I presume the government feel. Oh no, I never put those words into your mouth. But I presume the government is saying, look, we're the ones actually charged with resolving this issue. We've sought advice, we've sought counsel, and deferring the no-fault evictions is not going to really help the situation. In fact, if we leave it for another 6 months, things might be even worse. But then again, the counter-argument might be made that they've had 12 years that have brought us to this position.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And Greg, by the way, I'm not saying the opposition have got the solution either. My main thrust of my argument is they had 12 years, and then suddenly now they claim it's suddenly come at them at a calamitous rate or something. That's downright hypocrisy. And when you've had 12 years, and Greg, it's been clear it's like our health. What is it now? We've got almost 1 million people on the health waiting list. And I heard Philomene Nihe on the other day saying the claim now that winter waiting lists, she says now it's just continuous year round. I don't know. We need to have a look at our systems, because nothing seems to be working properly if you're at the bottom end of the scale. Now, if you're up and if you can afford private houses and you can approve private healthcare, the system works lovely for you. It's the people at the bottom who are getting screwed right, left and centre.
And the least amount of money you have, the more it seems that things impact you, the higher taxes you have to pay, the highest interest rates on a mortgage that you have to pay, and so on and so forth. It's a desperate situation for so many people out there. Micheál Colm, what do you think the solution was here? Because really, the opposition didn't propose anything new. They just simply said, to the government, keep doing what you're doing. How much time would need to be bought to make any real change to the situation, do you think? Or what do you think of it all? Sorry, not to that point, just generally speaking, your views.
Look, the reality here is that this is working for the government. This is working for the landlord class. This situation didn't come by chance, or as Pat said there, it just didn't, avalanche straight down on them. They know what they're doing. The government is very, very clear in their position and in terms of protecting the landlord class, protecting the capitalist classes. And this is a very strong...
What's the landlord class, Micheál Colm, with all due respect? I mean, you must know people that inherited a second house or went away and worked very, very hard and decided that they, rather than trust the banking system or pensions, that they would do up a house and rent it out. Are you grouping them in the landlord class as well?
No, not at all.
Right, so there's a hierarchy within the landlord class also?
Of course there is. Okay. If a house is left to me by an old aunt or an old uncle or whoever, certainly doesn't put me or anybody else into that class. It certainly doesn't put anybody who wants to buy a house because they have 3 or 4 children and they want to have a bit of a pension or want to leave something for their children. That is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the upper echelons of our society. I'm talking about those that fly into or don't even fly into our country anymore, but press of a button and buying sways of hundreds and hundreds of apartments, the vulture funds, the capitalist classes who are raking money. And when there's ever a crisis in capitalism, bear in mind that there is money being made by a certain section of our society. That society are the ones, those in our society are the 1% who control the economic, control the government's ideology's position. The government's position here is very, very clear. Let there be no doubt whatsoever about this here. The Fine Gael, Fianna Fáil, Greens and all their cheerleaders know exactly what's happening here.
Do you believe Sinn Féin would do anything different?
Well, I can't speak for Sinn Féin. Let Sinn Féin
but you've been critical of the other main parties, and I'm only mentioning them because they were absent from the list of parties. Do you believe then that Sinn Féin offers something new and something different?
No, those on my list are those that are running the 26 counties. Those are the ones that we unfortunately elect to run this country and not looking at the ideology and what actually drives them. They are very clear in their position. So until we And I make no bones about it. I come from a very strong left position. I believe that there's only one solution, and that solution is a left government that is progressive, a left government that is willing to actually go out and build houses and take control out of the private market.
But are some of the proposals from the left not things like, deciding what people, maybe encroaching on people's rights to house ownership? I think some people before profit proposals are along those lines that to weaken the control that in other words that the state could take over housing in terms of to deal with a housing crisis. Do you subscribe to that type of way of thinking?
The state can do that anyway. This morning alone, I spoke to the council in terms of Compulsory Orders Acts. We were trashing that out. I'm in no favour of taking land off any working class person or property off any working class person, but I'm very, very much in favour of taking land and property off the very, very elite of this country in the interest of the working classes. The working classes.
So you take from the rich and distribute. You take from the rich. You take from the rich and distribute to the poor. Is that what you do?
Sorry?
You would take from the rich and distribute it to the poor, be it their money, their land, their homes.
Of course, you just take from the rich. We take their tax off them when the rich are paying very, very little tax as it is. When you say it yourself, it's those in the lower echelons of society are the ones that are paying the higher tax. Paying the higher tax when you have 3 or 4 cars, maybe outside a house with everybody paying car tax. Maybe people, if their parents are working, or even any of the children are working, they're paying high tax. They're paying tax and everything. But yet the very wealthy and the well-to-do have loopholes, are not paying very little tax. And even if they are paying tax, and people will come back with figures, it's not in proportion in terms of what we, the working class, are paying. So what we need is we need a rethink. We're unfortunately a very conservative society, and that's to do with the experience of imperialism and a church through many generations and decades. But we need a shift. Okay. We need a shift, or things are going to get a hell of a lot worse, and worse than what they are now.
Doreen, do you want to come back on anything, Micheál Collin?
Definitely want to come back. I'm going to go back to Councillor first, please, if I may. I just wonder exactly what the Donegal County Council are doing, because that's where we are as a nation. We need to think about our own county, and I wonder what the delays are in more county council houses being built. What's happening, the housing that was planned in Carrygart, there were houses planned there. Why is there a delay there? Is there politics being played with that particular site, or what's going on? There's an awful lot that county councillors within Donegal have to look at. I do think that as a government that they can't do any more than they're doing in relation to looking after people as regards housing. They're dealing with it daily, and I think it was Simon Coveney that spoke at the far side of the Dáil on the side of the government, and they're well aware that this is a crisis situation and that it's getting worse.
Well, just in relation to they can't do any more, what about, say, for instance, looking at modular housing for Donegal? I mean, you say they can't do any more. That's one thing that they could do, but they've ruled that out.
But I'm just wondering where it is locally and what the council are doing. And I would love, Colin, you'll ask me to come back to me on that. Do you think that the County Council in Donegal are doing enough to house our own people? And what are they doing in relation to that? And is there more emphasis being put on looking after our newcomer people that are coming in? So maybe, and I won't even, Pat McGarrett has his own opinion in relation to the present government, but they spoke in government the last day. There's ample things going on, and they're doing their best they can in relation to a crisis that is in this country, as far as I'm concerned. But I mean, we need to look at ourselves and what we're doing as a county in relation to our own, and who's making the big money and the big bucks in Donegal in relation to housing. I'd love to know that. Now, maybe some of you will come back on that, gentlemen.
Well, I suspect you have your own theories, judging by the way you phrased that question. Pat, do you want to come back on? And I'll come directly actually to the role of the council in all of this, but I just want to bring Pat in just for a comment on Doreen and your comments.
The government have done some very good things, and I'm not saying everything's doom and gloom, far from it, but I'm also saying, Greg, years back, like for instance, Fianna Fáil way back in the 1960s were a sort of to quote Micheál, you'll never agree with us, Micheál, but they were sort of left-wing. They introduced policies like free education. They built social houses, or council houses, whatever we like to call them. Nowadays, Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, I can't tell the difference between them. They seem to look after the developer and the rich class and all the rest of it. Many social houses or council houses have been built in Donegal this last, say, 10 years. What happened? Where did all the sort of looking after the lower, the social end of looking at the government's role of looking after the community? But that all seems to be, and about the 1980s when along came the sort of Celtic Tiger, Bertie Ahern and the guys in Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil put on their sheepskin coat and started going into bed with the bankers and the developers and all the rest of it. Now, that's not left-wing ideology. Check it out. And then, it's there. So basically what I'm saying is maybe it's time we went back to sort of having policies that look after, let the rich, let people make money. I'm all in favour of it. Let the society make money. And totally in favour of it. But there has to be some sort of responsibility for those at the bottom end.
Well, the system is flawed.
See a cancer specialist,
yeah.
Or if you're waiting for a hip replacement for 5 years or whatever, there is something seriously wrong with our system.
I mean, the system has to be flawed, does it not? When during the time of this cost of living crisis, that companies, food providers, the shops, all the big shops, they're making record profits. That fuel companies are making record profits, that during COVID, for an example, the rich got richer. Pharmaceutical companies, their profits went through the roof. During time of war, the amount of money that's being generated through that. I mean, Doreen, before I go back to my whole column, I mean, there's something wrong with the system. This is separate to Pat's point, but I think it might live in the same house. It's ridiculous.
Yes, I agree with you to the extent of what happened over COVID and how people made the money. But that was an epidemic, and therefore, to me, cannot even be in the same conversation. I'm not sure. The most important thing to me out of the whole COVID thing was whether or not we all survived it in our heads, and whether or not we still have to. There's a lot going on in society that still has things have to deal with things. A lot of people have to deal with issues, and I'd be very concerned about that, which is really far more important, people's mental health, more so than, we'll say, who made a quick buck. And our shops did make a lot of money. And you know what? We were glad to have them. It was great we had the services that we had. That's the
but the reason we have food inflation now, the reason why the poorest in society is struggling to feed themselves, is because the excess profits of the retailers in the food market is driving inflation up. That's why inflation is not coming down, because they are gouging their loyal customers through this cost of living crisis, and it seems that there is no one to hold them to account or to call them out on it. It's absolutely ridiculous, and people so loyal to these shops, and I'm not talking about the small independents, I'm on about the big boys. Their profits are accounting for 2/3 of inflation, whereas in a normal scenario it's 1/3. It's crazy what's going on. Micheál Colm, a general comment on that, if you don't mind, and then it would be interesting to hear what the council actually is doing in terms of providing housing for people.
First thing I'd say, I'm very disappointed to hear Doreen peddling a very kind of racist position there when she says, what are we doing to look after our own?
No, in fairness, she says, what are we doing to look after? No, what? Yes, but what she's talking about, and she can speak for herself. She's talking about looking after our own, which I presume is long-term homeless, and she also said, what is the council doing to look after people that have come in to it? So I sort of read it as a separation between long-term homelessness and dealing with another group of people that also require homing. Doreen, if you meant something different,
my apologies.
If you meant something different, Doreen, you can say it yourself. But that's how I read your comment.
Thanks very much for that, Greg. But I don't need Colin Gillespie to be remarks like that. I'm not a racist person. I never have been.
I'm glad to hear that.
I'm just saying it as an.
And Doreen, just one other thing. His name's Micheál Colm. Just so we address each other respectfully, if that's okay.
The father.
Of course.
Well, anyway,
go on. Go ahead.
Yeah, to go back to what I was asked in terms of the council, Doreen. Unfortunately, I can't comment on the Carrick situation, but I'm more than happy to have a look at that for you, or any of the people around there who are in desperate need of homes. But look, we need to look at. I was listening to Eamon Ryan this morning on the wireless. On Radio Air and talking about what do we do when somebody is facing eviction. Now, one of the what the government believes is one of their key cards is here that we can actually buy homes now, that we can buy houses now if there's a tenant in it. That's not working. That's not working. I spoke about that during the week at the council meeting when I was talking to Patsy Lafferty, asking him what happens if there is a situation that Greg Hughes is renting a house off Pat, and he's only in the house and on the housing list for 3 months. I'm renting off Dorian, and I'm on the housing list with 3-4 kids for the last 7-8 years. Does that mean then that we can step in, buy the house off Pat, and all of a sudden within months you have a house? No, it's not working. The government hasn't thought this through whatsoever. They've thrown this out without putting any resources in behind it, without giving us additional staff, without looking at the policy that needs to change dramatically. And they keep peddling this on the radio, and it's actually misleading the public, because what we're getting is we're getting calls constantly saying that we have Mary or Johnny in the house. I'm selling the house. Can you buy the house now? It doesn't work like that. And the
but that would be quite good, because one of the big problems seems to be that landlords are going to the councils, not just Donegal or maybe even not Donegal, but they're looking for very high prices. And if the council don't agree to that, they say, well, we'll go to the open market then. So
yeah, and by the time we get our testing done in terms of MICA,
forgot about that.
By the time we get cutting through the millions of strips of red tape, it takes forever to do anything at all. But the reality is that the government, Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, the conservative right-wing neoliberals within our civil servants and within the government know exactly what they're doing. We have not invested into building any houses. We have not looked as a long-term project on how we keep our young ones at home. During the week when at the council meeting, I said this when I says, aren't we lucky that we have vast immigration in this country? Because if we didn't, where would people be living when we're sending people to the four corners of the world to make a better living? I know families who have been in contact who says that they want to come home because they've just had children, either in Abu Dhabi, Australia or America, wherever they're at, the thousands of them, but they can't come home because there ain't no homes for them to come home to. And the government has made that clear decision to leave us where we are. So let's not pretend that this is a position that the government has just tripped over. They've known it, and this is exactly where they want to be.
Right, so Pat McCart, we are in this situation, and I think everyone admits, be it government, opposition, whoever, that we are in a crisis that's actually going to get worse before it gets better. And I think, picking up from your earlier comments, we're not going to resolve this tinkering around the edges. This takes a completely, rip it all up, back to how we used to do things in the past, or some different way going forward. We're not fiddling around with this and introducing little bits of legislation that makes a landlord do this, that and the other. Yeah. That's not going to do it, is it? Is that your view?
That's my view. I think Micheál's after explained it pretty well. All day long, see tomorrow morning, it's not going to be solved no matter what the government do now. It's too late. And as Micheál pointed out, if you start getting into the red tape, taking over a house, checking it for MICA, you're talking possibly a year, 18 months before it's all through. So, and that's all. By the way, Greg, another thought that struck me, listen to, we're living at a time where I think the government is running a 5.5 billion surplus. Somebody can correct me on that if that's true.
I think that's the rainy day fund. We've 5 billion in the rainy day fund, and there is another surplus coming down the line.
What would it be like if we were living in abject poverty? We're actually living in quite a rich country. And you'd think that we would have the know-how and the expertise and the will to sort of solve this problem. But look, I'm deliberately coming back to this, and it's someone, Doreen said, it's not that it arrived on our door this morning. Fine Gael have been in power for 12 years, and that's the point I keep coming back to. This did not come down like an avalanche yesterday morning. It's been coming for a long time, and you would expect that people of ability, and by the way, there are people of a real ability in the government, you'd expect them to have acted and put in policies and to ensure this thing was all working. And it's a complete disaster. Why are we now sort of falling off a cliff?
All right, Dorian, you're not here to speak on behalf of government, but you are obviously a Fine Gaeler through and through. So whilst you are here, I mean, you could argue over the last 12 years, Pat's talked about Ireland being a very wealthy country. Perhaps that's down to Fine Gael policy, Fine Gael governance. But there is an issue, you must admit, that we are awash with money because we've got 5 billion in a rainy day fund, and we are going to have more money coming into us over the course of this year. Yet we're scrapping school projects or deferring them because the money's not there, and other problems that could be resolved by spending this money, we're actually choosing to sit on it while people are getting chucked out of their houses and can't feed themselves. There's something a bit wrong with a country being run like that when the money's there, but we're keeping it locked away rather than actually helping people that could benefit from it, no?
Well, let's just look back on the last 5 years or the last 3 years in relation to COVID. And weren't we very lucky that we had the likes of Pascal Donoghue, who held our purse strings and who had the money there for us to have extra beds available in private hospitals, for us to have access to the help and support that we needed, for people to have money who didn't have to work, for people who were earning very little as regards social payments, whose payments were doubled. So do not come back to me, either Pat or our councillor, and tell me that, no. So I'm sorry, I'm not taking that because the main thing that's wrong with this country is housing. I'm not denying that, but I said you have to look at how we have money and the reason we have it, and that employment is at a very good rate in this country, and I'm delighted to see that. And this idea that there's vast immigration going on in the country, I have lots of my family who are working abroad. This is choices that they made, America, London, and elsewhere. That's a choice that they made. And if people are coming back from Abu Dhabi or from, as councillor referred to, or from Australia, they're having a good life out there.
But Doreen, there are parents and grandparents listening today. But in fairness, Doreen, I think you must concede, though, there are parents and grandparents today heartbroken that their young ones have had to leave because there's no options for them here. Or in fact, parents that have had to say to the young people, and I know because I've spoken to them, listen, there's nothing for you here.
Can I come on there, please?
Of course you can. It's a democracy
sorry.
here.
Listen, I take huge offence to what Dorians have said there now. My community is absolutely devastated with immigration. Absolutely devastated. I was up in Doory the other day, about a week or two ago, when 5 of them left that village, and that village is barely on its knees, as very much on its knees as it is. And until the Ukrainians came, the school was facing closure. We have huge unemployment. We have one of the lowest wage bases in West Donegal. And to say that these are choices and they're doing well for themselves abroad, they are working extremely hard. And not everybody in Australia and other countries are doing that well either. They are forced to leave. And sorry, Dorian, and I get on well with you, but that arrogance of to think that it's a lifestyle choice for people to say goodbye at Donegal Airport and knowing that we won't see our children for years. That's arrogant. And it just shows clearly, it shows very, very clearly that you're not in touch with the reality of the working class communities where I represent, because that is not what we're facing. We're facing homelessness, we're facing unemployment, we're facing immigration, and we're absolutely in tatters. And it's in tatters because of arrogance of government and looking after the interests of the well-to-do. So I find that very offensive.
Doreen, come back there briefly.
Oh, I certainly will come back. Well, I wonder, you're talking there like a national politician there. You're a local councillor, and I wonder what you have done in relation to employment, and I wonder what Pierce Doherty has done to that particular area, seeing as he speaks on their behalf. What employment have you brought to the area? What projects have you brought? What have you done? Why is there this continuous...
I'll tell you exactly what I've done.
Yeah, do you know what I mean?
I'll tell you exactly what I've done.
To me, as if you're a national politician about the left wing and what Fine Gael and Fine Gael aren't you. I was asking you a question as a councillor and you couldn't answer me.
I did answer you, Doreen.
What's going on in relation to housing in Donegal? You didn't have those figures. You a councillor. Colin, come on.
I've answered you very, very clearly. And to turn around...
Right, how many houses then... Her question is, how many houses did Donegal County Council deliver last year, and how many do they hope to deliver this year?
The council has delivered very, very little houses. We have 4 houses just recently built in Dunfanaghy. We had a number of houses built in Ardra since I became a councillor 9 years ago. The idea is that the problem is that the state is not adequately funding our council. The idea is to look after the interest of the landlords over build as a council. And we haven't. And what we look towards is the contractors to do turnkey, contractors who wants to build houses but can't get agreement of government on prices, contractors who are playing the game with the state as well in terms of getting better money for what they want to build and being couture. So the idea that the council aren't building houses, you're 100% right, Dorian. We're not building houses because of the government's policy.
Finally on this before we move forward, Pat McCart, finally on this before we move forward, I actually really wonder how much building of any type is going to happen over the next while. I think we're seeing an awful lot of road projects not progressing, and it's being blamed about rising costs and all that there. We're seeing health centres that have been greenlit, ready to go. All of a sudden, they've stalled. 60-odd schools, some of them, not least here in Donegal, obviously all very needed, but some just ready to go. They've stopped now. I just wonder really, Pat, in terms of building houses, and maybe that's why there's such a focus on the council buying houses. I just don't think there's going to be very much building. I don't think there's much going on at the moment, and I think it's actually going to get worse, and I think that's kind of the elephant in the room, Pat.
Absolutely. I don't see anything. I don't see any solution coming up anytime soon. Greg, you're 100%. Greg, I every so often go for a wee drive around Donegal, and I have seen very few, even private house builds, never mind public house builds. And by the way, Greg, I'm going to throw this in. If the council, I don't know who's behind the road into Letterkenny that's been a disaster for 4 years, if that's an example of what's going on, God bless us, we'll never get any houses built.
No comment. Did you want a quick word on that, Micheál, Colin, before I take a break? About the slowdown in construction in this country, certainly
we're in a position now where we're looking at a number of sites between Armore, between Duhuri, Gidor and Fulcara and Hohanlia. And we have 2 sites ready to go. Yesterday I spent a fair part of the morning talking to council officials and the contractor itself, where we're down at Erdskullwara, and Jesus, that community badly needs that building knocked down. But the contractor's telling me very clearly that he's not breaking ground because the state, the government, the department, not the council. He was very, very clear about that, and I know why. It's not the council, it's the department who is refusing to sit down and give adequate funding from his perspective to break ground. That is 29 houses that we badly need in Gidor. There's houses in Dunlow that is slowly progressing, and I use the word slowly because that's what it is, slowly progressing, and no reflection onto our own staff in the area who are doing cartwheels. We have a Respond Housing in Dunlow who were paid to build apartments X amount of years ago, 13, 14, 15 years ago. We've been looking for them to build 8 2-bedroom houses in the lower floor. They've got funding twice, and as I again said at the council meeting, there needs to be an investigation into how they got paid twice for that there, and they still haven't built these rooms. So the policy isn't working.
Yeah, we're on the same page there.
It's not, and if this is the best that the government can do, the government needs to be removed.
Dorian, do you have concerns about what appears to be a slowdown on, I don't know, what are they called, capital projects? I'm not really good at that kind of terminology and stuff, but anyways, things like health centres, schools, public housing.
You know, the contractor was named for the Dunfanity Health Centre, and thanks to Joe McHugh and the councillor down there, a good independent councillor down there. So, you know, that there are some... Cafferty, thank you. There are councillors there are projects that are moving ahead. But this was mentioned in the Dáil, you know, by Joe McHugh recently about the 50 projects in relation to the schools and the 4 masters in particular. And I personally am very annoyed to think that our own school, Illustrin, isn't even in that 58 projects that are waiting to go to tender, you know. So it's heartbreaking. And it's the fact that the thing is a wash.
Do you think that's the council's fault?
Norma Foley's in the county today and opening 2 schools that thank God are pushed and gone ahead, both in Ballybofey, and I think there's some school in Noville, maybe, or an extension being opened as well. But there's lots more work to be done. But I think the Minister of Education needs to come forward and answer what the delay is and where the capital funding is going and why the delay is there. And you know, I find it interesting, funny, that Councillor Pringle this week all of a sudden is very interested in schools in his own area, where he made a comment before on your programme that he felt, you know, so what, you get a school a bit earlier. Well, it's very important for a community to have a school, and Councillor Michael Colum has referred to that. Schools are very, very important in areas, and if you have a school and you have a school that's open within, whether it's an island school, whether it's, you know, a Gaeltacht school, whether it's a faith school, whatever it's kind of based, schools are needed in our community. And if you have schools, you'll have everything, and you'll have everything that's going along with it.
All right, we'll be back with more from our guests. I feel like I'm going to get everyone's names wrong as well. I think it's only me and Pat that are doing things right. Who's Doreen and who's Michael, and I don't know what's going on. Councillor Pringle. Anyway, come here. We're getting there nonetheless. We have Councillor Michael Colin McGillen-Aspeg, an independent councillor. Doreen Sheridan Kennedy, former deputy school principal and a community campaigner, of course. And last but certainly not least, Pat McCarter, former managing editor of the Derry Group newspapers. He's a newspaper columnist now, podcaster and what have you. Okay, we'll be back with more shortly.
With passengers boarding for the holiday of a lifetime, please go woo!
Highland Radio wants to send you on the holiday of a lifetime.
Worth 10,000 euro.
Plus £5,000 spending money. Woo!
Get your ticket now at highlandradio.com. Answer the question and start packing. Start packing.
Draw takes place Thursday, 6th of April on the 9 till noon show.
Start planning your ultimate getaway. Only on Highland Radio.
Ooh.
Easter sale now on. Evolve Clothing Superstore. 2 floors of men's essential styles and fashions in casual wear, streetwear, formal wear and suiting. Plus over 200 styles of footwear. Easter sale now on. Evolve Clothing, Letterkenny Retail Park.
It's back. McGinty Tractors Open Day, Thursday 6th of April from 2 p.m. to 9 p.m. on the Clare Road, Donegal Town. Don't miss out on the largest selection of tractors and farm machinery on show exclusively at McGinty Tractors Open Day on Thursday 6th of April from 2 p.m. to 9 p.m. Visit McGintyTractors.com.
At Hickey, Clark and Langan Insurance Brokers, they compare quotes from all the leading insurers, so you get a great price. Home, motor and van, farm, holiday home, travel and liability insurance, they quote them all. So if the worst happens, you're covered. For a competitive insurance quote today, call Hickey, Clark and Langan on 9126688 or pop into their office at Ballymacool, Letterkenny. Hickey, Clark and Langan General Insurances Limited, trading as Hickey, Clark and Langan, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Highland Radio time checks with Expressway. Travel route 32 from Letterkenny to Dublin. Expressway, bringing you the time at...
Brilliant news! The Whistling Donkeys are joining the Marty Party this Friday night in the Conry Hotel in Letterkenny for a night you won't want to miss. Donegal's finest Honor, Eurovision winners Paul Harrington and Charlie McGettigan, Realtor dancers, TikTok sensation Koija, David James, Shauna McStravick, comedian Bernard O'Shea and many more. Get your tickets now at www.conryhotel.com or call 074 91 24369. Show starts at 8 o'clock.
Keep your car or van running smoothly with a service at Hegarty's Ford in Letterkenny. Not only will it minimise the risk of a major repair expense, but it will be logged in your vehicle's service handbook and help its resale value. Hegarty's also offer everything from new and pre-owned car sales to parts and body repairs in their approved body shop. Book a service online this month and save €30 when you use the code FORD30. You're always in good hands at Hegarty's Ford, Carnamugga, Letterkenny. See Hegartys.com.
Not long till our trip to Ards and North Down.
I can't wait to dust off the golf clubs.
Or maybe I get some R&R in the spa.
We could book in some paddleboarding.
Or maybe kayaking this time. The kids would love that.
There's loads of great options for dinner and drinks.
The main question is, what do we do first?
Create moments to remember. Find great value breaks at visitardandnorthdown.com/offers.
Hey, got some old household electrical appliances or batteries lying around? Recycle them for free with We Ireland in partnership with Donegal County Council at our special collection events. On Tuesday the 4th of April in Falcara at Dennis McCallion's Yard, Fanmore from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And on Thursday the 6th of April in Carrigart at Carrigart Church Car Park, Umla from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. We'll accept anything household with a plug or battery. Recycle for free. See weaireland.ie for more details.
Inishowen Co-op celebrates 60 years in business with a massive home build show at the Inishowen Gateway Hotel, Buncrana on Saturday, April 15th from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. Meet the suppliers for expert advice on solar energy, heating, flooring, paint, insulation, plumbing and all your home build needs. Micah support and advice available on the day. Inishowen Co-op home build event Saturday, April 15th at the Inishowen Gateway Hotel, Buncrana. Log on to Facebook for more details.
No, I think I accidentally didn't invite your views at the start of the programme, but sure, you know the numbers anyway, 086 60 25,000, and we love to get them. This caller says, this country is finished every Sunday at the dinner table. The only chat from my 3 sons who are finishing university is plans to go to all ends of the world to make a healthy living at a reasonable cost. Now, we're not going to dwell too long on this, but that's, I think, typical Doreen. I mean, if that was me and it was my 3 boys, my heart would just be ripped out of my chest at the thought that they felt that they had to go away. Their reasons aren't to spread the wings, and you know, there's no harm in travel if you want to. Of course, lots of people avail of it and grow from it, but this is a family and their 3 sons are planning to get out of Dodge just as soon as they can. I mean, that's heartbreaking, isn't it?
It is heartbreaking, but they're going with a good education on their back, a university degree, a good secondary education and a good primary education, something that maybe a lot of our Irish years ago didn't have to go. So the money that is there, and they're educated men, and remember what we did when we weren't an educated race, when we went abroad and worked hard and built New York and built London. So, you know, that is where we're at. And if we can provide a good education for our young people, and that they're going abroad into work, as whether it's a
can I respectfully say though, I don't think an education makes a person, to be honest with you. You know, to be able to build or to construct or to work with wood or to work with bricks or whatever is equal in my mind to someone that can sit pushing buttons on a keyboard. So I wouldn't sort of say we're any better off now necessarily in terms of our skill set and our contribution to this world than we might have been in the past. But that's just my view, and you're entitled to yours.
No, I think that's just a wee bit too tunnel vision of you there, Greg. I think we're sending our Irish away much better educated, and let's be proud of it, and much better able to be able to come and go. You're not going to America now to stay forever. You're able to come home. You're able to come from Australia.
Greg, can I come in there? I remember on Highland Radio one morning, Sunday morning, his man Danny Sharkey used to present this show quite a few years ago, but 2007, 2008. Just as the recession hit. And I remember there was a request come on for some mother saying her 2 children were heading off the next morning to Australia. And the same afternoon, I remember Michael Noonan, the Minister for Finance, saying immigration was not a problem, that his own children had, some of them had emigrated. And what he didn't say was one of his daughters had emigrated, as far as I recall, to Brussels, where she'd been set up with a nice job. No, and I thought the arrogance, that one was by choice, the other was by necessity. And there's a big difference between, you know, people heading off because they choose to get a life experience, and other because they have no choice because they can't get employment. So I think Micheál and Doreen are talking about 2 different things.
My daughter's landlord has put the rent from $600 a month to $800 because they're feeding into his greed, which is going on. Her friend's rent is going from $800 a month to $1,000, resulting in both of them moving to Australia. Does no one care about our youth anymore? Has anyone looked at the cost of cars in this country? It's insane. That's a supply and demand issue, I think, to a great deal there. If Micheál wants respect, perhaps he could refer to our country as the Republic of Ireland as opposed to the 26 counties. I'm not going back 100 odd years on this. We have a few minutes, but anyway. Let's see. There's a long one there I'll read after 10. Sinn Féin are the biggest objectors to housing developments. Another, cannot separate private landlords from vulture funds. Biggest providers of housing are private landlords. Someone referenced you as a director of elections for Fine Gael at some point, Pat. Is that true? What changed? I don't know.
No, I was director of elections for Joe McHugh, and I'm still very proud of that. But I was never a member of Fine Gael. My own opinions are my own opinions.
Yep. Morning, Greg. How many of our councillors have second homes and properties rented out? Thank you. Do you think that's a relevant question, Micheál Colin? I mean, we know what the situation is in the Dáil. And I suppose that it's easier maybe for us to figure out who's speaking and why they might be speaking. Is there such a register for the local authority? It's not one I've ever looked into, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think maybe Donegal News, Derry People publishes it every year. I know we have to put back what property and what interests we have beyond a wee bit of land that was left over in Carrick to me, and land around my house, and a bit of land that I bought many, many years ago. I think there's maybe about an acre in it now.
Could you not sell that for housing?
Sorry?
Could you not sell that for housing?
Well, yeah, we're actually somebody at the moment is looking into it. To be honest with you, and
good to see you doing your bit.
Hopefully, it'll be somebody local, and not more holiday homes, because that's not what we need. But I certainly would encourage anybody that has a bit of land, or anybody that has that is able to build a house, to build. But look, there is a register.
Well, there's not a register for radio presenters, but I can tell you I have.
Well, no, I think it's
nothing.
Open to the public.
I have absolutely nothing that I could contribute except the house there that I live in. Good morning. Just a wee reply to Doreen. I've got 3 children going to Australia now in May, and already 4 nieces and nephews there already. Nothing here for them. So that's a family there, Doreen. And listen, it's just that you raised this. I don't want you to think that I'm targeting you in any way. It's just it's a strong view that you have. So that's 7 cousins effectively that are in Australia or going to Australia because there's nothing here for them. Like, you take 7 cousins out of a family grouping, it changes potentially if they don't come back. It changes an awful lot. It has a huge ripple effect there, doesn't it? I mean, that's local basketball players, local soccer players, local rugby GEA players. Those people are our future here. There's no point us exporting all the educated people either.
Yeah, but it's not today or yesterday all this is happening. And, when I have family abroad as well, and I'm happy for them, and they're doing as well as they're doing in other countries. And that's the way we have to be as parents. We have to look to the future, and if that's the path they have to take. And it's not as easy as that to say that and to make that sort of comment. Do you think we don't miss our children who are abroad as well? But we're happy we've educated them and we've given them the proper footing that we thought was right. And that's all we can do. And we have to pull together. And I have to comment now on the Donegal County Council, the chairman, Mr. Liam Blaney. Am I right on that? I don't want to. Yeah, Liam Blaney was in New York for the celebrations over as he was in Philadelphia, and he met different people that I knew, and he went out of his way to meet a son of mine who's in business in London. And I just want to compliment the council on the work they did on their journeys abroad, and anyone who's represented our county or our country, because it was just fantastic. Because when you have family who are in business and who are working hard, and for them to be able to network and to pull together, and also I'd like to give credit to Troy Gallagher, who you yourself worked with last year when you were in London, and how he managed to meet with the workers from abroad, from Donegal. So there's an awful lot going on out there that I think we sometimes forget about, and I think we need to give credit where credit's due.
Pat, there's a few texters in comparing, our country to other European countries. But the one thing I noticed when we were over in Brussels for the show on Wednesday, talking to people that live and work there, you pay around about 50% tax over there. Now, if you go to the doctor, it's like €4 to see the doctor, and the dentist is similar, and there's quick access to it, and there's loads of benefits. There's electric bikes and scooters scattered around the city. I mean, it's really quite remarkable to see. But workers have to pay an awful lot of tax to that. I mean, do we have to get a little bit real here, that if we want us right across the board, but everyone equally, that if we want more, we have to pay more for it?
Well, that's...
Greg, if you look at places like Denmark and Norway and Finland, they're basically social democracies. They're socialist sort of policies. And okay, you pay high taxes, but you get a hell of a lot of services. And places like Norway and in Denmark, definitely, as far as I recall, you have free education and free health up until you finish your education. Like university. Imagine if you had said to somebody here, you have 2 or 3 kids going to university and you don't have to pay for it. Now, okay, the downside is you pay high taxes, but the service is there. So the system you choose is the system you choose.
I just wonder, Micheál Colm, would any government get elected saying that we're going to charge, everyone, bother shouting 50% tax, but you'll get such and such for free? Would we as the public join the dots and vote for such a party? I don't think so.
I think people would. I think people would be quite happy to see the rich paying their fair share of tax, which they don't. I think the public would want to see those that are extremely well off and able to avoid tax, pay tax, so that we have better services. Absolutely, that's what they'd want to see. But the problem is that the wealthy don't pay the fair share of tax, and on that we're left with very little and poor services. So the public and the working class would love to see a situation that the wealthy pay their fair share and that we get proper services for it.
Micheál Colm, thank you very much for joining us today. I've enjoyed your contribution. Have a lovely weekend. Take care.
Gur mí maigad agus gur maigad doirín agus tá pat fásta agus tá déisteí le léir.
Slán. Pat McCart, thank you very much as always. It's great to hear your views and have you on the show. Great as always, as I say. Last but not least, Doreen Sheridan Kennedy, great to have you on. I know you're batting sort of a lone batsman today, but it's I think it's important that we hear the perspective aligned with the government, because I said in the show last week, even as it stands in the opinion polls, the current government sit at 43% of the popular vote, and it's no guarantee that there's going to be a change of power at the next election. So I think that also at times has to be recognised, and a lot of people that vote for them and trust them presumably listen to this show as well. So as I say, we appreciate you putting those views across as well. Not that everyone who supports those parties agrees with you, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to do this, Greg, and want to congratulate you on your show from Brussels. I just think it shows great initiative by Highland. You know, I thoroughly enjoyed listening to the interviews last night, actually, of the European MPs, and I think it's time we did more to link up, you know, County Council, government, our own government, and Europe, because they're all very much tied in together, and massive money out there that we haven't accessed. There's a big lot of work to be done there.
I think what was very interesting, and I appreciate your comments, and we can't get into it now because of time, I definitely got a sense that what the MEPs do over there, the government don't give them credit for. Any government, I'm not saying but this is not party politics, don't get me wrong, but that the MEPs are often thrown under the bus, and the national politicians take the credit for when things are going well, and then the national politicians can have a habit of blaming Europe when things aren't going so well on other matters as well. So I did get a real sense of frustration amongst MEPs of all different political backgrounds, by the way, in relation to that. And I can see it. I got it. I got what they were saying.
Well, in fairness, now I know that we have Maria Walsh, and we have our friend from County Louth who took Maria McGuinness's seat, who does Trojan work with the fishermen, you know. So we have our European MPs at our constituency meetings and here on a regular basis.
Yes, okay.
And the same with the other political parties. So they're involved at that level. So they do
yes, but they feel they don't necessarily get the credit for it. But anyway, it's an interesting conversation for another day. Thank you very much indeed.
The Donegal Senior Hurlers are in Carrick-on-Shannon this Sunday for the League Division 2B final. Meath provide the opposition for Mickey McCann's side as the county also chase promotion. Join the Highland team for live match commentary this Sunday from the 2 p.m. throw-in in association with the Northwest Premier Bathroom and Tile Store. Bathroom and Tile Boutique, Bridge End.
The groom goes free. The groom goes free. Yes, you heard it. The Groom's Room. Evolve Clothing, Letterkenny Retail Park. The groom goes free. Call in today. Terms and conditions apply.
Sleek, smooth, safe, modern. Oh, you want to hear more? Do you want to drive the most modern car in Donegal? There's a reason why it's our county's favourite car. The brand new diesel Kia Sportage, the multi-award-winning SUV, is available at iMotors now. Our team will take care of all of your needs. Visit imotors.ie or call in to us today, because how you feel when you drive is important to us.
Keep out the cold, cold, cold! And ring Fleming for their full range of garage doors, agri doors, insulated doors, milking parlour doors. Fleming, 91 48 234.
Highland Radio weather updates with Ireland West Airport. Lanzarote is back. Check out our new summer flights to Lanzarote with Ryanair starting March 28th. Ireland West Airport. Don't just take off, take it easy.
Okay, now mostly cloudy today with spells of rain or drizzle, heavy at times, highest temperatures of 10 to 12 degrees with moderate northwest breezes developing. There will be mist and low cloud on hills, though I think the weather's going to be pretty nice for Sunday and Monday, okay? So hold your fire for that. We'll be back with much more in the 9 till noon show after we take a break for the news and obituary notices.
Do you need a little extra help staying in your home? At Bluebird Care, we offer a wide variety of QMark-approved personalised home care services across Donegal. And our fully trained and committed staff will always meet your care needs with kindness, compassion and dignity. To get your personal home care assessment plan, visit bluebirdcare.ie or call our care team today on 07491 29562 and bring care home.
Sunsoak in Mexico with TUI. Fly direct to Cancun from Dublin and save up to €400 per person. Holiday sorted. TUI. Live happy. Offer T's and C's apply.
Don't miss the award-winning comedian Dave Young performing his hilarious live and laughing show at the Abbey Hotel, Donegal Town on Sunday 9th of April with doors open at 8 p.m. Get ready for an unforgettable evening of comedy and entertainment. Tickets €15. Available online from abbeyhoteldonegal.com or from the hotel reception.
Get set for spring at B&Q with 3 for 2 on interior paint, including all paint mixing. With brands like Dulux, Valspar and Farrow & Ball. Shop in store or at DIY.ie. That's spring nailed. You can do it. Exclusions apply. Value of every third item per single transaction and descending price order deducted. End 17th April. See DIY.ie.
Attention all sports fans. O'Neill Sportswear have an amazing clearance sale happening in their Strabane warehouse. For 4 days only from Thursday through till Sunday, you'll find everything you need to look and feel the best on the field. From jerseys to shorts, tees to hoodies, they've got it all. We'll see you there. O'Neill's. Live for it.
I remember you. Hi, this is May McFettridge here. Come and see me, the delightful Olivia Nash, in a happy medium at the Alley Theatre in Strabane on the 13th of April. Join me for a laugh as I enter the spirit world and reveal all. Tickets from the theatre box office or online.
Live, on air, online and on the Highland Radio app. This is Highland Radio News.
Good morning, I'm Michaela Clark with the news at 10 o'clock. The Taoiseach has told the Dáil that he believes the National Standards Authority of Ireland is reviewing its definitions of defective block causes to ensure the latest research on the issue is being reflected. Micheál Martin was responding to Donegal Deputy Thomas Pringle, who pointed out the findings of new research which show the extent to which deleterious materials other than mica are at the heart of the crisis. He says that must be taken into account.
A peer-reviewed study has been published by Andreas Lehmann. The study clearly shows that pyrite and pyrite and other substances are the cause of the defective block issue. The National Standards Authority of Ireland needs to take that on board. Will you contact the National Standards Authority of Ireland to ensure that they amend ISO 465 to reflect this as a matter of urgency?
My understanding is they are reviewing it, and I'll check that again for the Deputy. We are very anxious to keep moving in respect of the mica scheme.
The Education Minister is visiting Donegal today. Norma Foley was due in Creaslaw this morning to officially open a new extension at Sculwara. The Minister has been coming under mounting pressure due to the deferral of works at almost 60 schools across the country, with many long-awaited projects in Donegal affected. Homeless charities are urging those at risk of eviction to get in touch as soon as possible. The eviction ban will lapse at midnight tonight after being introduced last October. Motions and counter-motions were voted upon in the Dáil this week, but the government will proceed with the ending of the moratorium. Wayne Stanley, Executive Director of the Simon Communities of Ireland, says there are supports for those affected.
Reach out to their local Simon community, reach out to their local authority, reach out to the Citizens Information, gather up as much information as you can, as quickly as you can. This is not your fault. There's nothing to feel ashamed of, or I know people talk about as parents feeling ashamed that they can't provide for their children, or as individuals starting to feel hopeless. People who are at risk of homelessness aren't the cause of this crisis.
Donegal County Council is to liaise with Changemakers Donegal to secure fair trade town status for more areas of the county. At a meeting this week, Councillor Jack Murray successfully moved a motion seeking support to have 3 towns in Inishowen, Buncrana, Ballyliffin and Clonmany designated as fair trade towns. He's also secured a commitment from the council that it will continue to follow fair trade principles. Councillor Murray says it's good that Donegal is seen to be taking the lead.
We know that an entire town have signed up to it. All the local businesses have agreed that they're supplying fair trade. It's reassuring to us as consumers that we're not exploiting everybody and everybody is getting a fair wage. And I'm delighted that Donegal County Council is one of the biggest employers in the county, are going to lead out in this. They're going to work with Changemakers Donegal. We're going to ensure that any functions that we have, any teas or coffees are supplied within the council, we'll be ensuring that they're sourced in a fair, environmentally friendly way.
23 children have died while in state care in less than 10 years. A further 176 have lost their lives since 2014, while known to Tusla's Child Protection Services. Of the 199, 38 died by suicide, 95 were down to natural causes, and some were categorised as drug overdoses or homicides. They were reported to the National Review panel, and N2 spokesperson on children Luke Silk has seen the reports.
It's evident from the reports that are produced by the National Review panel that there are failings, that there are children falling through the cracks. But in terms of DESH schools and counsellor assistance and, disadvantaged areas and things like that, I think we do need a lot more supports.
People in the Bridgend area are being invited to view the preferred option for the Bridgend bypass. Following a number of public consultations, Transport Infrastructure Ireland and Donegal County Council are hosting a public display of the emerging preferred option for the N13 Bridgend to the county boundary route improvement project. The event will take place on Wednesday at Angrenin Hotel in Burt between 12 and 8 p.m. Weather now mostly cloudy today with spells of rain or drizzle heavy at times. Highest temperatures of 10 to 12 degrees with moderate northwest breezes developing. That's all from Highland Radio News for now. We'll be back with an update again at 11 o'clock. Until then, good morning.
The eviction notices for this Friday morning, the 31st of March. The death has occurred of Mary McMenamin, née Lafferty, Glencovet, Ballybofey, remains reposing at her late residence from 5 o'clock this evening. Funeral from there on Sunday morning at 10:30 for Requiem Mass in St Mary's Church, Sesha O'Neill at 11 o'clock, followed by interment in the adjoining churchyard. The Requiem Mass will be streamed live via the parish YouTube channel. Donations in lieu of flowers, if desired, to the Alzheimer's Society of Ireland or the Donegal Hospice, care of any family member. The death has taken place of Ernie Gibson, Broadpath, Convoy, reposing at Gibson's funeral home from 5 o'clock to 10 o'clock tonight and again from 5 o'clock to 10 o'clock tomorrow night. Funeral details to follow. The death has taken place of Anne Callaghan, née McMonigal, Cranagh Road, Buncrana, remains reposing at her residence. Funeral from there tomorrow morning at 20 to 12, going to St Mary's Oratory for Requiem Mass at 12 noon. Burial afterwards in Cockhill Cemetery. The death has taken place of Betty O'Hagan, formerly of Drummond Court, Strabane, reposing at Quigley's funeral home this evening from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. Funeral leaving the funeral home tomorrow morning at 9 for Requiem Mass in St Mary's Church, Melmount at 9:30. Interment afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. The Requiem Mass can be viewed live at melmountparish.com. The death has taken place of Elizabeth Maisie McMullen, née Harran, 4 Rabstown Road, Ernie, Strabane, reposing at her late home, which is private to family only, please, before the funeral. Service of thanksgiving for the life of Maisie will be held in Ernie Presbyterian Church tomorrow at 2 o'clock, followed by committal in Ernie Cemetery. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu, if desired, to Ernie Presbyterian Church Building Fund, care of Robert Armstrong and Son Funeral Directors. And the death has occurred of Jim O'Neill, 1 Bells Park Manor, Claddagh, remains reposing at his home. Funeral from there tomorrow morning at 11:20 for Requiem Mass at 12 noon in St Columba's Church, Dunnyloop. Interment afterwards in the adjoining churchyard. For more details, including any family health guidelines for wakes and funerals, please go to highlandradio.com.
Super Value makes saving money as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. We match Aldi on the products you love. 2. Great special offers like Lure Coffee Pods 20-pack and Pepsi 9-pack cans €5. Exclusive to Real Rewards members only. And 3. Money off vouchers every week on the app. So, follow the 1, 2, 3 and save money at Super Value. T's and C's apply.
Cutting through the spin. The 9 till noon show on Highland Radio.
And you're very welcome back to the programme. Good morning if you're just joining us. You missed an interesting hour, I think, where we primarily handed it over to housing. It just ran on like that. We had other things to talk about, but it was just one of those topics that filled the hour. Some of your comments which have been coming in, and keep them coming in to us, please. I have a site which was left to me, and I applied to the council for an SI house to be built on it. We presently live in a mobile home with 3 children, yet I appear to be getting nowhere with the council to help us. We would be one off the housing list. Well, I hope, I'm not sure what role your local councillor might have, but I'd certainly reach out to them. I was in Letterkenny this week and bought a parking ticket for the main street. When I checked how long I had, I realised the clock on the machine wasn't changed. So if anyone gets a ticket this week, just double check your timings. So the clock's changed, but the ticketing machine didn't change. What about all the teachers leaving because they can't get a full-time contract? Nurses who came home when their country called them home during the pandemic never got contracts either. Another, didn't hear the beginning of your show, but hear comments on landlords and vultures. The vultures were invited into this country and have bought up everything in sight. That was government ineptitude or policy. They should step up now and prevent them buying any more. All sales now should go to buy to live in till this crisis is over. Another, Greg, I presume you realise you can't slag politicians now after your midweek junket. Well, I don't really slag politicians, to be honest with you. I think our role here is to question and challenge politicians when it's necessary. I'm not sure it qualifies as a junket either. It wouldn't be on top of my priority to do again very quick. You're over, do a show, and then you're back the next day. There's nothing in it for me. I didn't come back with any brown envelopes or bags full of cash. Just went over to do a programme to try and bring us a little bit closer to Europe if we want to, just to understand what goes on over there. But listen, I respect your point of view, and that's why I read it out. Ask me whole column, how many asylum seekers, the kind that were busted overnight to accommodation in Letterkenny, are in this part or his part of the country, or county, sorry. I'm not on about Ukrainian war refugees here, but mostly groups of young, fit men. I don't understand how fit people are. I don't understand what difference that makes in terms of whether they come to Ireland or not. We have a policy, whether you like it or not, in terms of both Ukrainian refugees and also other types of migrants, people moving from one country to another. We have a policy there. It doesn't matter whether they can fight, if they're old enough to be in an army, whether they're fit, sick or otherwise. It's really not part of the policy here. I hear an awful lot of people talking about young, fit men. We have, as I say, whether you, and this is what you could debate, whether we should have this policy or not. And that was the big debate, I suppose, pre-Brexit, through Brexit and post-Brexit in the UK, in Britain. But we have this policy. And but this caller says, was there any consultation with the council on this? I don't believe there's much consultation on any of that, really, to be honest with you. A caller says we should look at countries like Finland and Denmark with similar-sized populations, both in the EU, as to how they do housing and health so well. This council should send a delegation to look at their system. That comes in from Connell. Thanks, Colin. Connell, tell me, whole column, stop waffling, change his record, says another. The disbanding of local district councils by Fine Gael's Phil Hogan has added greatly to the lack of council-built houses, believes a listener. Another, Green Party not allowing the roads. That's in terms of the road infrastructure, and they do have a balance, don't they, in terms of spend on public transport versus road building. I'm not sure, as the listener says, it's bound to have an impact, isn't it? I'm not sure to what extent, though. I take extreme offence to Doreen's comments on emigration. I have 3 children living abroad because this country is a mess. She's spouting Fine Gael, Fianna Fáil crap, they say, defending the indefensible. Another, a lack of foresight, either intentionally or through stupidity by our government yet again. Yes, they saw this coming. The defective blocks crisis is the next avalanche coming. It's really not being given the government support that it deserves, either financially, administratively, or in terms of mental health support. This is a tsunami unfolding in front of our eyes. It gets airtime because of the likes of Paddy Diver, but our elected representatives need to action, support or change. Let's see what else is coming through here. A caller not happy with Doreen Kennedy and some of her views there. But some people are agreeing with her. If Micheál wants respect, perhaps he could refer to the countries the Republic has opposed to the 26 counties. Another, Trump is the only man who talks about stopping war. Surely we should be listening to him. As president, Donald Trump, if you do, just some basic research, some of his language was warmongering. He threatened nukes against North Korea. He threatened nukes against Russia. He said that if they did anything, that he would annihilate them effectively, like they've never seen before. A lot of his language at that time was quite warmongery, and he maintains that Ukraine wouldn't have happened if he was president, but it's not because he would have gone over and negotiated and all this type of stuff. That's not really how he approaches things. So it's well worth just having a quick search on Google or your preferred search engine just to get a flavour of Trump's language as president in relation to China, North Korea, and I mean, just even in terms of China. I mean, you'd be very familiar with how he says that words and what often followed after he said that. Some would say quite antagonistic and not very peaceful or war avoiding. As I say, I'm just saying make sure that we all check all our back, everything that's been said before, I suppose, settling on a fixed opinion. Morning, Greg. How many of our councillors have second homes and properties? I asked that question, of course. Thank you, Micheál Collins, speaking the truth about housing. My two daughters have to leave Gweedore to go to Australia, not because they want to, because they have to. Micheál speaks from his heart always for all the family and hard times living in Donegal. With two children in Australia and one more thinking of going, I don't know how Doreen can say at least they have a good education when Doreen has three children thousands of miles away. She might think differently. Micheál Collins is wrong. We do need holiday homes, as 50% of the tourist beds in Donegal are occupied by refugees. The knock-on effect on tourism business is drastic. That 50% doesn't tell the whole story either, because there are some parts that it's more than 50%, and you just feel for the cafes and the gift shops and the other businesses in that area that will see a big fall off in footfall. And I remember when a hotel was just being taken over in Letterkenny right at the very start of this, and my concern at that point was, what about the other businesses? Because this was never going to be short term. What about the impact this would have on tourism? And I said at the time, this is not being well thought out. And yet here we are a year and a half later, and the chickens are coming home to roost. Tell Doreen a flight left Dublin bound for Australia 3 weeks ago with 87 young Irish women, males and females. Sorry, I beg your pardon. Tell Doreen a flight left Dublin bound for Australia 3 weeks ago with 87 young Inishowen males and females. If there was work here in better pay conditions, would this be happening? Well, that is a shocking figure. As I say, I'm all for people wanting to explore the world and grow. If you do, in fact, it wasn't for me. I tried it, didn't like it. Others do try it, do like it, but you just don't want it to be something they feel they've no choice on, do you? Going with a good education is good to go anywhere, but these young ones are going away to stay away because they can't afford to live here. Tunnel vision. Another, if a landlord has a good tenant who looks after the property right and pays their rent on time, they wouldn't be evicted. Unfortunately, this type of tenant is scarce, and if you're going to damage someone's property and cause constant headaches to the landlord, then you deserve to be evicted. I mean, on the flip side, though, is it not possible that some are getting, let's just say, €800 a month, and they think, you know, I could probably get 12 or 1,300 euro a month if I switch tenants? You're not saying that's not happening either. I don't think it's all black and white here. I think there's an awful lot of grey as well. Why are we crying all the time? Nothing here when there's so many people wants to come here. It's a big change from 70 years ago. No power, water, toilets, bathrooms, etc. Is there still independent councillors? I thought they were all blue shirt Fine Gaelers and Fianna Fáilers and Greens. My spelling is bad because I can't stomach them. It's okay, don't worry about your spelling. Hi Greg, ask your panel what's the story with 17 new houses sitting finished, carpet blinds, etc. in Milford empty since the Ukrainian families moved out. I'm not familiar with that story at all. Another, the Irish people, well, I am, but I'm not familiar with that latest development in relation to it. The Irish people built many countries like Australia, America and England with no education. Imagine what they will do now with an education. Hi, Greg. You all did a great show from Brussels. Well done. And congratulations on the big birthday also. Best radio station in the country, says Mary. Thanks, Mary. I really appreciate that feedback from you. Just to let you know, there'll be a community clean-up in Annagree on Sunday at 12 noon. An hour or less of your time is all they need to ensure the village and surrounds are litter-free. So it's going to be a good day Sunday, I'm told. Dry at least. I thought it was very mild yesterday, 15 odd degrees, but it felt warmer. But if you want to get out, get some fresh air and help clean up Annagry, 12 noon. I'm not sure where they're meeting, but I presume it will be pretty obvious. If you want to let me know where you're all meeting, I can pass that information on as well. Right, okay, it is time for us to take the bingo numbers. Stay where you are, more guests on the way, of course.
It's time for NCBI Bingo on Highland Radio.
It's Tuesday the 31st of March. You're playing on the yellow sheet. The reference number is S5. It's game number 13. The numbers are 66, 12, 82, 59, 10, 45, 81, 65, 40, and finally 86. Phone your claim to 9104833 before 8 tonight, leaving your name, contact number and the name of the shop where you purchased your book, and we'll call you back the next working day. Get all your NCBI bingo information at highlandradio.com.
Mr. Blue Sky, please tell us why. The Euro Millions jackpot is an estimated €30 million. Play responsibly in-store, in-app or at lottery.ie. The National Lottery. It could be you.
At Allstate, we provide flexible working options that make work for you. You can choose condensed working or a flexible start or finish time. Choose to work from home or the office whenever you want. Don't miss out on the moments that matter to you. Make work for you. Search Allstate NI Careers today.
Highland Radio time checks with Expressway. Travel route 32 from Letterkenny to Dublin. Expressway, bringing you the time at...
Okay, the time's 21 minutes past 10, and just to let you know, the clean-up in Annagry's this Sunday at 12 noon. The meeting at the Annagry Community Hall. Pickers, gloves and bags supplied. So fair play to you for ringing back in for that with that information. That's meet-up at the Annagry Community Hall. Right, okay. We're joined on the programme now by Dave Coleman. He's from Coleman Legal. You know that Coleman Legal, on behalf of the Defective Blocks Ireland Group, is leading the legal bid for more than 1,600 homeowners seeking compensation between the amount paid out by the government and the shortfall homeowners may find themselves needing to rebuild their homes. So we want to get an update as to where this is at. So, Dave, good morning to you. Thanks for joining us again.
Good morning, Greg. Thank you.
Right, so how are things progressing, Dave? Where are we at in this process?
The case is going very well, Greg. I suppose it's a vast piece of litigation. It's one of the biggest ever in the state. And really, we have approached the commercial court in Dublin, in the High Court, and they have agreed to fast-track the case. So, along with the other defendants, who are Cassidy Brothers, of course, the Concrete Quarry, the Donegal County Council and the NSAI, we've all agreed on a timeline to deliver documentation, etc., to enable the case to be fast-tracked in real terms through the courts. And that is ongoing at the moment. Everybody's on target to achieve their own milestones within the case. And it's going very well. We're quite pleased with the level of support from people. We're pleased with the level of information forthcoming. And obviously, we believe that the case is well-founded. And we hope to have a hearing in 2024.
Which is still quite some time away, but it just goes to show how slowly the wheels can turn in legal terms, that is actually kind of seen as fast-tracked, Dave. I mean, you're very familiar with that, 100%. But for us sort of lay folk, you know what I mean?
Yes, well, we would anticipate that it will take 24 months. And for a piece of litigation the size that it is, that is quite an achievement. And normally it's 36 to 48 months for these things to go through. And when you see it in months, a month, given that there's documentation to be shared among many people, is not a long piece of time, if you get me. So, look, we are very pleased with the way it's going, and that, you know, everybody is stepping up. All defendants are. We're not being met with a wall of silence or a wall of opposition, but rather this is a fact-based case. And, of course, the facts are in the houses throughout Donegal and beyond. So, you know, there's not a lot to dispute, if you know what I mean.
Well, why is the government not a named party in this action?
Well, they are in effect by proxy through their agents of Donegal County Council and the NSAI, because these are the bodies responsible for the management of the quality standards throughout the country for all of us, and for people in Donegal in particular.
Okay, Dave, but before we move on, just so we all have an understanding, then let's just say this is successful. How would the likes of Cassidy Brothers Concrete, Donegal County Council and the NSAI make up these shortfalls? And it wouldn't just be the shortfall. I presume, too, there are people represented outside of the scheme, people with agricultural buildings, holiday homes, second homes, anyone really that's impacted by this, but that is not actually going to get the full benefit of the scheme as it's being sold to us, or actually any benefit from it at all. So who would eventually end up picking up the potentially billion dollar bill? Billion dollar, you know what I mean? Sorry, €billion bill.
Absolutely, Greg. Absolutely. There's two parts to the question. The first part is that the defendants themselves. Now, we know that it will take state subvention to meet any successful damages claim against Donegal County Council or indeed the NSAI. We won't speak for Cassidy's at the moment. They're obviously fighting a case that will be unfair. But should the case be successful, it will be, of course, the Department of Finance that allocates the funds to allow either a court award or a settlement to go through. That's how that will happen. And your second question there about the people who are not entitled to avail of the current grant scheme. And people must remember, it's not a redress scheme, it's a grant scheme. Of course, we are taking a case on behalf of all affected property owners, and which include all of the people entitled to the grant. The idea being that the grant is sort of set off against the total cost of the home repair or the property repair, which has no grant. So that's how we see any settlement being implemented, if there's to be a settlement or if there's to be a court order.
In terms of the settlement, do you envisage a point, or can you see a point whereby things seem to be progressing quite well and the government feels that maybe it is going to lose this? And then, I mean, it'd be really unusual. I don't know how unusual it might be, but for a legal action like this, or like any legal action for that matter, to have such an impact on a government scheme or government policy. But can you see a point maybe whereby they might say, this is not going to go our way, maybe we need to look at this, in inverted commas, enhanced scheme ourselves?
Well, yes. I mean, what we'll be looking for, of course, is a redress scheme, which is universal in its application. But you're right. The adage that war is not as good as jaw is actually where we see it. And we have good communication with all of the parties to the case. And ultimately, it's going to be down to the facts and the law. And we'll all be looking at the same facts. We'll all be looking at the same law. And I think it's important that there is respect, which there is between the parties. And, things such as parity of esteem, where we're applying the best experts globally into advise us, and we've done that already. And we really have, got a tremendous, support from industry-leading experts in relation to what has happened and why it's happened. So, yes, of course people will talk, but the point being that we should only talk when there's a willingness on all parties to talk. But we're not there yet, and I wouldn't like the public to believe for a moment that we're on the cusp of negotiations here. We are not. We're fighting the case, and but to have good relations is a very important thing.
Okay, well, I think a significant breakthrough obviously was allowing this to proceed quicker than it might otherwise. What other major, could you call it, wins do you think your side has had, Dave, in this regard? In regard to the whole case, sorry.
Well, we've had a legal first in the case already, and that is that all the participants in the case each have their own writ, because we don't have a class action structure in Ireland. So what we've agreed with the state and all the defendants is that they do not have to put in an appearance to each case, and we are serving each case electronically. What that means is that there's absolutely no risk to any participant in the case now, should the case not be successful. So it's free for all of the homeowners and property owners in Donegal to join this case, to advocate for the vindication of their own rights. So, I mean, from our own legal point of view, we're very, very pleased with it. We believe that it's unique, and well, it is unique, and we're quite satisfied that we've done a good job to protect members of the case and those that continue to join it.
Do you see this happen?
Will be others.
I beg your pardon. Sorry, Dave. I was going to ask, so say, for instance, one case was successful whereby it was deemed that a homeowner shouldn't have to find €50,000 for their house to be repaired. Do you see then the house of cards falling, or then do we move to someone with an agricultural shed and that goes through the process separately? Like, do you believe this will be fought in stages, or will success in an opening case pave the way for success for everyone else? Like, I mean, this could, to certain elements of this scheme and challenging it, theoretically, we could be looking at 10 or 15 years if each individual sort of argument had to be proven through a case. Maybe I'm completely wrong, but I'm just ask for clarity.
No, you're not wrong. How we're dealing with that point is that we have chosen pathfinder cases, which will encapsulate all of the law and all of the facts as applied to everybody within these pathfinder cases. And once they are decided, the courts will have pronounced upon those particular set of facts which apply to all. So it won't be the situation that the state would then start to fight individuals, because that would lead to massive legal costs and a public outcry on further public purse damage going to lawyers, which is not in anybody's interest.
Okay, interesting. Dave, anything that, I mean, you're the expert here, anything else that you think we should mention just as we wrap it up?
No, the only thing I'd say to your listeners is that, we are a private law firm running a private case, and we encourage people to join. But ultimately, we will have to close our numbers, and we don't want to leave anybody behind, particularly when there's no risk to them. So I'd encourage people to, not to sit back and wait to see what happens. It's happening. And, if we have to close our ranks, we will advocate, of course, for our clients first.
Okay, well, there are people...
That's our job.
There are people who strongly suspect, and they may well be right, that their house is affected by defective concrete, but they can't afford testing right now, and they're probably waiting on this enhanced scheme from government to have access to more affordable testing. Do you have to have it proven through the process that you have... been affected by defective concrete before you can join this case, Dave?
No, absolutely not, Greg. People, they know themselves. If it walks like a duck and waddles like a duck, it's a duck, and they feel themselves that their houses are affected, they should sign up. They don't need to show a positive test or anything like it. We understand the position that they're in. They won't be asked to put their hand in their pocket to fund testing. That will happen in the fullness of time. In order to get on the scheme. But we will agree with the state what that testing is and how it works. At the moment, we're just finalising the protocols for testing the quarry in Buncrana, and we are also organising the protocol for testing of the lead homes. So this will be done in the next few days, and we'll commence testing in the next couple of months.
Is foundation testing part of that process, Dave?
Oh, yes,
okay.
Absolutely.
Right,
okay. I mean, it's quite clear that there are anomalies within the current grant system in itself, and it's a good opportunity for the revisiting IS 465, which is the basis upon which testing is done, and indeed things such as foundation testing. So we're looking at we're bypassing IS 465, and we're doing our own set of testing, which we believe is more equal and more fair to homeowners.
Dave, thanks for your time this morning and giving us that update. I do appreciate it.
Thank you, Greg.
All right, take care. Dave Coleman from Coleman Legal. If you want to get involved in that, I'm sure you can just search Coleman Legal and you'll get some contact details there, or we can dig them out here if you want to give us a ring.
The county's #1 talk show, The 9 till Noon Show on Highland Radio.
If you have magic moments or great memories sitting on your phone or in the cloud, have them printed at McGee's Chemist Letterkenny. Get larger 7x5 prints for the same as 6x4s. 35mm and film from disposable cameras also printed and digitalised. Use the in-store kiosk. Download the McGee's Photo Prints app or visit mcgees.ie. Photos printed instantly, within an hour, or in by 10, ready by 5. Hold your memories in your hand with McGee's Chemist Letterkenny.
At ESB Networks, we're connecting Ireland to a clean electric future. And as part of the National Smart Metering programme, we're now installing smart electricity meters in your area. Your new smart meter will reduce the need for estimated bills, help you to manage your electricity usage more efficiently, and enable you to access smart electricity products and services. We'll contact you before your meter is installed. Find out more at esbnetworks.ie/smartmeter.
Not sure where to start with your smart meter? Sign up to a Home Electric Plus smart meter price plan from Electric Ireland to see how much energy your appliances are actually using. Track your usage monthly, daily or even hourly and get tips and advice on how to use less. It's a smart start to controlling your energy usage. To sign up, search Electric Ireland Home Electric Plus. Smart meter and online account required. Features available after 4 months. T's and C's apply. See electricireland.ie.
TAMS opens with sweeping changes for farmers. For more in your Farmer's Journal, here's Paul Mooney.
Find out details on grants for animal housing, slurry storage, handling equipment and fencing. Border counties at risk as TB in Northern Ireland hits record levels. Minister plans for more acres places this year. Sheep prices up as Easter buying begins. Farmers' questions answered on the new suckler scheme. Plus in Irish Country Living, don't miss our 32-page Easter food magazine.
Inside this week's Irish Farmer's Journal. You cannot afford to miss it.
Okay, so obviously it's 25 years since the Good Friday Agreement was established, and quite interesting, as we were in Brussels during the week, there was a special event held to mark 25 years. Mark the 25 years, should I say, but also two MEPs and others in Europe at pains to point out that, and maybe we don't hear it that often, that the EU played quite an important role in establishing that, and of course then supporting Ireland subsequently through programmes like peace initiatives and what have you. We're going to talk now to Paddy Hart, Chair of the International Fund for Ireland. Good morning to you, Paddy. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Greg.
Right, I just thought it was quite interesting, because I haven't really heard much of it before. We know America's involvement, we know the main players on the island and in Britain as well. But, the EU has, and it was recognised at that conference, has played quite an important role in, I suppose, brokering and maintaining peace and trying to improve the lives of many here.
Yes, I suppose, Greg, everyone knows the International Fund, but I think it's important, just as you said, that it is a really fabulous diaspora project where it brought the United States, Canada, New Zealand, Australia together. That's maybe point one. And then once you think about the peace process, it started probably the civil rights movement, Greg, in the 1970s, when it was really started, with quiet peacemakers working diligently, painstakingly to try and resolve the fact that violence had come into communities. And then in 1985, the Anglo-Irish Agreement was written, and the International Fund came out of the Anglo-Irish Agreement, brokered by both governments. What is not so well known, and that's why I'm delighted you've given me the opportunity to talk about it. In 1989, the EU joined Canada, New Zealand, Australia, and the United Kingdom in brokering and building peace. So the EU has been a champion of peace building in Ireland, Northern Ireland, the border counties since 1989. It is, to the International Fund alone, between 1989 and 2010, it has contributed 350 million euros. And of course, about 1994, the peace program started to appear, and the International Fund we work very closely with the peace programs. Then, of course, the Good Friday Agreement, and then the SUPB and the more significant peace programs. But I think it's really important to give the EU its role, obviously in the Good Friday Agreement 25 years ago, but for much longer than that. And the EU was very heavily involved and building the blocks and paving the way so that the Good Friday Agreement could come about.
And I suppose if we're all in the, we're going all down the fair route, I think that Britain still contributes to this fund even post-Brexit and outside of the EU, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right, Greg. It continues to do so. It's taking, in fact, it's taking a greater interest in the fund since Brexit than it did before, because it recognises the challenges that communities are having, challenges at the border, challenges of identity. So the British government and the Irish government have become increasingly involved in the fund. Big interest, continually big interest in the US, of course, Canada, Australia, New Zealand. So everyone is coming on board more and more, because everyone is beginning to recognise the fallout that has come as a result of the United Kingdom leaving the EU.
Mm-hmm. So in terms of the projects it has supported and what it might support into the future, like how do people apply, or individuals or groups, or who is it open to?
In one way, it's open to everyone. However, the fund is not it's not an open competition where you apply to it. After 37 years, we have very good contacts in all communities and in Northern Ireland and the border counties, so we can very quickly find out where there's a need, and we will send some of our people in to work with groups to try and get them the capacity to work with the fund to deliver what it is they want. And I suppose why we do it that way is because we try to focus on those groups who are least capable of putting applications and proposals together, communities that have been marginalised and feel outside of mainstream. There are lots of groups who are well capable of making their applications. So that's why where our approach is more targeted than it is open competition.
And over the years, I've spoken to too many to mention different groups or organisations that have been funded through the various tranches of this type of peace funding, and the effort has always been to sort of build bridges, more inclusion, people playing sports together or whatever it might be. And we should never lose sight of the fact how quickly that work can be undone. That there are always going to be elements that would like to return to, the greater divisions of the past, to recruit young people into their way of thinking, younger people, maybe 20, 30-year-olds that came through some of these programs. Like, we should never take for granted, I think, where we're at, because as with the best will in the world, a lot of this positive peace-building stuff, let me put it like that, can be unravelled really quite quickly. Now, we shouldn't allow that to deter us, but I think we should always be mindful of it, Paddy.
Yes, Craig. I mean, firstly, the whole region is being transformed beyond belief from the dark days of the 70s, 80s, and well into the 90s. And we have to be mindful that violent conflict leaves deep scars, deep-rooted divisions, deep trauma within communities. That leaves lots of communities fractured and very vulnerable to paramilitarism coming in, and, as you say, recruiting young people who've been generationally affected by the Troubles. I think what you've got to notice when you work in this for a good while is it doesn't stop with the generation that were directly involved. It transcends generationally. So we're very, very aware that young people are very vulnerable to paramilitary recruitment, and you would see in the news at the moment is that the dissident Republicans are doing a lot of recruitment in the Staband area. Dissident Loyalism is doing a lot of recruitment in the in Belfast, wider Belfast area. So a significant majority of our funding and our time is spent in working with young people to give them more positive pathways so that the option of getting involved in paramilitary activity isn't there.
And look, there is a political vacuum there now, and there are always individuals and groups prepared to go in and fill that. There's no doubt that this work is easier with a functioning and stable political system in Northern Ireland. It's not just about making decisions and toing and froing and arguing. It isn't important to have the structures there in place. They've been well established for thousands of years in society.
Absolutely, Greg. I mean, you can't have a vibrant, healthy, prosperous, growing society unless you have a stable government. However, I think it's important to say that in the vacuums that occur, the community leaders really step up to the plate. They work really hard. They keep lots of things in line. Easter 12 months ago at Lanark Way, there was almost a major outbreak, and community leaders went in, identified the young people, got them out, put them in programs to make sure that they stayed. And
I respect that, Paddy, but
I
can say, but if it continues where people can't feed their children, they can't heat their homes, the schools can't recruit teachers, that firefighting that's almost going on will become ever more difficult. So yes, fair play to them, but this can't go on in perpetuity without having a very serious consequence, I don't think, Paddy.
Exactly. I was just going to. So you've just said what I was going to say, that there's only so far that you can expect community leadership to do this, and for the society to work properly, then you need a functioning government, and that needs to get back into place sooner rather than later, because it's only so much that you can expect people at the community level to hold the line.
Right, so what situation are we at in terms of the International Fund for Ireland at the moment? So is it open for applications? What kind of applications are being sought? What kind of work's being done? Is there multi-year funding out ahead of us? So just give us we kind of had to brush over an awful lot of stuff, Paddy, but just give us a state of play as where we are now and going forward then.
Okay, of course, in Donegal there's been a long history of working with the International Fund, and that's well documented. Going forward on our current strategy, we're looking at a lot of work in communities and partnership. That's cross-border work to try and make sure that the relationships that have been built and any new ones that we can build are continued in the current post-Brexit phase. So we have projects between Inishowen and Derry operating at the moment, between Strabane and Lifford operating at the moment, a very interesting project between Milford and Portadown, Politics in Action, where people begin to learn about each other's politics and about how systems work, and have challenging conversations about identity. So there's a lot of that work going on. We have some interesting sports programs coming between Inishowen and Derry, and a larger one that's coming. So there's a fairly strong emphasis on sport, because it's a very neutral way of bringing people together.
It's a leveler, isn't it? Really,
it's really it's fantastic. It's a fantastic medium. In fact, Donegal Sports Partnership and the Waterside Neighbourhood Trust are working on an active community project, which is absolutely fabulous. It's non-competitive sporting, and people can get together and do whatever types of sporting activity they want with young people, adults, etc. And it's working extremely well. Going into some of the more unionist loyalist communities in the Waterside of Derry, working with communities in East and West Donegal under the Donegal Sports Partnership. So that's a very exciting project.
Yeah, and the more here, I know you just mentioned them there, not in passing, because of course you realise the work that they do, but the more I hear of what Donegal Sports Partnership do, the more impressed I am. They seem to be a really good organisation with really good people working there, doing amazing things.
My Sweeney is a great team, and in an era where you can sit and look at your phone, and you can get, not only are you not doing anything, you're also at the risk of mental health challenges to you, whereas Donegal Sports Partnership are doing active sports. They're working off a model from Cork, as far as I recall, for miles. And yes, they're brilliant. They're really great to work with.
How much sort of reviewing oversight is there to ensure that this money is being well spent, that there's a bang for the buck, that in other words it's working? I mean, this money is just not chucked out, I presume, and that's the end of it.
No, we're very appreciative that we're getting US tax dollars, EU tax dollars, Canadian, Australian, New Zealand tax dollars. So we have a responsibility to make sure it's managed properly. So you have a program in Donegal. It's Stephen Barrett who will first of all assess the project. He will take it to the joint secretariats of the fund in Dublin. It will go to a review group, and that will be challenged by any authority that feels that is responsibility in that particular sector. It then goes to a designated board event where it's assessed again. It then goes to senior civil servants, and a final recommendation goes to the board where the international observers are there. So there's quite an extensive monitoring to make sure that you're getting the bang for the buck and that the right thing's being done.
Yeah, and as I say, look, there's so much there. I can only really, skirt around the edges, so to speak. If people want more information about the International Fund for Ireland, a bit of its background, its history, what it's doing, where it's going, is there a one-stop shop there, Paddy?
Well, first of all, the website's very informative, but Stephen Barrett, who is well known. Stephen used to work with Donegal Local Development, and Stephen's now working with the fund. And I have to say, whether he's listening or not, he's doing a fabulous job in making sure that Donegal gets more than its fair share of IFA funding. So Stephen's a good contact. Get his details on the website.
Right, okay. Now, you're well connected yourself. I think, you talked about your international connections there. Can you give us any scoops or exclusives on whether President Biden's going to be visiting our region, Paddy? I'm watching closely for any gives here now, by the way, so no messing.
I'm not, Greg. I'm not that well.
Grapevines, you know what I mean. You would have heard something on the grapevine. Would you rule it out? A wee trip to North Donegal, for example, because I do know there has been a little bit of, let's just say, in terms of people that might have to deal with such a business, maybe some overtime being cancelled and things like that there. So I'm not saying it's planned, but there's something happening there. Would you rule it out?
Well, you couldn't rule it out because they're exploring everything. And look, you have Brendan Boyd, whose dad comes from Glencolmkill, congressman. He's extremely supportive of the fund. And if anyone can make it happen, Congressman Boyle will do that.
All right, listen, it's been lovely speaking to you. Thanks for joining us, Paddy. Have a lovely weekend.
Have a lovely weekend.
All right, bye-bye. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. That's Paddy Hart, who is chair of the International Fund for Ireland.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook and at highlandradio.com.
Could it get any better as a senior citizen? No sitting in traffic trying to get to work. Heading off on midweek breaks. Out for a bite to eat whenever it suits. And now that bite to eat costs even less at Kelly's Diner in Letterkenny, with 15% off after 3 every weekday when you spend €15. Meet up for a chat and a bite to eat Monday to Friday with an extra 15% off the menu for all senior citizens at Kelly's Diner, Mountaintop, Letterkenny.
Keep out the cold, cold, cold! And ring Fleming for their full range of garage doors, agri doors, insulated doors, milking parlour doors. Fleming, 91 48 234.
Not long till our trip to Ards and North Down.
I can't wait to dust off the golf clubs.
Or maybe I get some R&R in the spa.
We could book in some paddleboarding.
Or maybe kayaking this time. The kids would love that.
There's loads of great options for dinner and drinks.
The main question is, what do we do first?
Create moments to remember. Find great value breaks at visitArdsandNorthdown.com/offers.
Raymond Sweeney here from Ben Sweeney Euronics to let you know about a great tumble dryer that will save you time and energy. The Blomberg 8kg dryer has a selection of sensor programs that allows you to decide exactly how dry you'd like your laundry, and smart technologies to help you reduce your energy costs. It also comes with an amazing 7-year parts and labour warranty. Call into us and see for yourself at Ben Sweeney Euronics, Port Road, Letterkenny, or in the shopping centre, Dunlow.
Check out these special offers at Simpsons Supermarket Letterkenny. McVitie's Digestives 2-pack, €2. Coke 2-pack 3 litre, €4. Genteel Toilet Roll 24-pack, only €6.50. Plus, everything you need for an extra special Easter extravaganza. Easter cards, Easter gifts, arts and crafts, Easter eggs, cakes and chocolate bunnies. With everything you need for an Easter egg hunt. While there, check out Peggy's Kitchen Cafe for great food, tea and coffee. Only 2 minutes from Letterkenny Hospital. Simpsons Supermarket for great value every day.
Highland Radio weather updates with Ireland West Airport. Thinking of a sun holiday this summer with the family? Fly to Alicante, Malaga, Faro, Lanzarote, Mallorca and Milan with Ryanair. Ireland West Airport. Don't just take off, take it easy.
Rightio, let's look at the weather. Mostly cloudy today with spells of rain or drizzle, heavy at times, highest temperatures of 10 to 12 degrees. With moderate northwest breezes developing, there'll be mist and low cloud on hills. Right, okay, I privately... when we've been covering the story of Gaelscoil na Cahamaistra, I just thought that this is one that had to be pulled out from the 58 odd and allowed to proceed because the timeline was there and everything was ready to go and progress could be lost if it didn't. But it seems that's not going to come to pass now. Let's see what Deirdre O'Gara on the Parents Association of the Gaelscoil in Donegal Town feels. Good morning to you, Deirdre. Thanks for rejoining us. I appreciate it.
Hiya, Greg. Thanks for having me on again.
Right, okay. So I hope listeners would be very familiar as to the strong argument for this to progress. The Education Minister is in the county today. Any movement, any meetings, any information for us?
Yeah, so basically Norma is in the county today. We got word on Wednesday evening that she would meet with 2 representatives from the school. So this morning 2 representatives went over, but unfortunately we got nowhere. We were so hopeful for good news to come out of this meeting today, but she gave no dates, no timeline, no commitment whatsoever.
Okay, now you presented her and Minister McConnell, who was travelling with her, you presented her with a dossier, some information as to the current state of play. What did she think when she looked through that?
Well, unfortunately, when one of the parents handed it to her, she refused to open it.
What do you mean refused to open it?
The same for Charlie. She wouldn't look at the pictures, yeah. It was handed to her to open it, to look at all the pictures of the state of the school, and she refused to do so.
Wow.
And same for Charlie McConnell.
Neither of the two of them would care to look at the conditions that school children and teachers are in. The Minister for Education?
Yes. Yes, that is correct.
Well, I mean, that's pretty shocking.
It is. It's shocking. It's disappointing, and it's making us even angrier at this stage now. Like, what are we going to do? What do we have to do for Norma's?
I'll tell you what we need to do. We need to understand that respect, when we're respectful and use very word, that the politicians serve us. If you know what I mean, and I don't mean that in any real far left or far right way, but you show a courtesy to those parents and you look at those pictures. I'm sorry. I can't be on the fence on that one. That's just the way it should be. Really, any hopes I can get it to, okay, we've got a meeting. She's hardly going to meet us without good news. That's how I would have been feeling, but nothing positive come from it then, from your perspective, Deirdre.
Yes, exactly. Like, we're out today for Easter break at 12 o'clock, and we thought we were going to be leaving the school today with such good news. But for the result of this morning's meeting, there's no news whatsoever.
Yeah, well, you know what? We'll not let it go. It's not over. Do you know what I mean?
No.
This can still progress. Deirdre, thanks for your updates over the course of the last while. I'm sorry it's such a disappointing meeting today. I'm sorry that parents were not even able to have their efforts recognised in terms of the photos being viewed and what have you. I think we can get more of an insight from that now. Deirdre, listen, thanks for your time, and well done, by the way, for you and the rest for not sitting down and taking this lightly. I think it's very admirable, and I think you'll get there. But thanks for now, Deirdre.
We will, yeah. We are not going to give up. Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Greg.
I know. Jimmy Brogan is a parents' representative on the Board of Management of Gaelscoil na Cahamaistra. You were at that meeting.
Good morning, Greg. Yeah, I was at the meeting. Yeah, listen, she listened to her concerns. We put across all her concerns that we had. She said that she agreed. She took on the concerns we had and she understood them and all. But as Deirdre was saying, when we presented her with the pictures. Now, there was also letters and comments from kids and stuff in it. We asked her to comment on to open and to comment on some of it. And
so the children had written down their views about having to some of the they weren't even looked at. Right, okay.
No, well, she said she would take it home and look. She'd take it and she would look at it and go through it properly. But when we were there, she didn't look at it. She glanced at one of the pages. The kids had written down 3 questions. One of them was, "Would you go to work in this condition?" And the other one was, "Would you expect children to go to school in a place like this?" And I can't remember what the third one was because I wasn't involved in writing the questions. I just seen them roughly this morning. But she didn't answer the questions and she didn't really look at the pictures. So.
Nice. How do you feel coming out of that meeting, Jimmy?
A bit disappointed, really. We weren't expecting the world. We were sort of expecting some sort of a timeline or some sort of a date of when we would get a word on it. But she just gave us no. She said that the project will definitely go ahead, but we don't know if that's going to be next week or next year or a couple of years' time. She gave us no indication of when it will be.
All right, okay. Hopefully, well, listen, Jimmy, keep the fight going, keep us in the loop. And as I say, heading into Easter now, it's disappointing, but look, it's not over yet. All right, Jimmy, thanks for your time.
All right, no problem, Greg.
Jimmy Brogan there, parents rep on the board of management of Gaelscoil na Cathal Maestri. Okay, disappointment there for those at that meeting. Right, okay. Keep your calls and comments coming in. Any that we didn't get to, we will carry over to Monday, by the way, because there's a couple of issues that are certainly going to still be there post the weekend. We're going to take a break for the news shortly. Coming up afterwards, Michael and Fionnuala are in studio with us, where we're trying to sort of, I suppose, ease our way to the weekend. We're going to talk all things entertainment, anything you want to talk about, music, theatre, books, podcasts, films, television, anything at all. We want you to be part of that as well, of course. So let us take a break for the news now. Okay, at 11 o'clock on the button, it is time to get a news update, and we welcome back onto the show Donald Kavanagh.
Thank you, Greg. Good morning. The Education Minister is visiting Donegal today. Norma Foley was in Creasler to officially open a new extension at school, where she's been coming under mounting pressure because of the deferral of works at almost 60 schools across the country, a number of them long-awaited projects in Donegal. Representatives of Gaelscoil na Cathal Maestri in Donegal town travelled to meet Minister Foley today, but she failed to give any commitment that works would go ahead. Representatives you've been hearing on the show claimed Minister Foley and Minister Charlie McConalogue also failed to view photographs of the current conditions at the school. Latest figures from the INMO have shown this month to be the worst March for overcrowding since records began. There has, however, been a decrease in the number of patients awaiting beds at Letterkenny University Hospital when compared to March 2022. 534 people have been without beds at various points during March at Letterkenny University Hospital. The solicitor leading the case on defective blocks through the commercial court says he anticipates a first hearing next year and the case could be concluded within 24 months. David Coleman says this is a very quick turnaround for such a hearing. He told Greg on the 9 till noon show that in the absence of a class action structure, they've secured a deal which protects all the householders involved in and joining the case. The Taoiseach has told the Dáil he believes the National Standards Authority of Ireland is reviewing its definitions of defective blocks in order to ensure the latest research on the issue is being reflected. The issue was raised in the Dáil by Donegal Deputy Thomas Pringle. Meanwhile, Deputy Pearse Doherty says the crisis in mental health services for children and young people across the country continues to deepen. Latest figures show 4,314 people across the country waiting for CAMHS appointments. That's up 88% from January 2020. Deputy Doherty says Minister Stephen Donnelly must act immediately to properly resource the service. Donegal County Council is to liaise with Changemakers Donegal to secure fair trade town status for 3 more towns in Inishowen. The council has also committed that it will continue to follow fair trade principles. And people in Bridgend are being invited to view the preferred option for the Bridgend bypass on Wednesday of next week. It will go on display as we say, Wednesday next week, Transport Infrastructure Ireland and Donegal County Council are hosting that public display of the emerging preferred option. And there are the headlines. More details of all of those stories, of course, on our website, highlandradio.com. Back with headlines again at 12 noon.
All right, Donald, thank you very much indeed. And we're just being informed too that following on from that meeting between parents and representatives from Gaelscoil and the Cahameister, and not the most positive of outcomes, that there is a protest being scheduled or being planned for St Mary's National School in Strawnall at 1 o'clock this afternoon. The Minister will be there. Okay, so we'll see how that pans out. We'll be back with more on the 9 till noon show, indeed, Michael and Fionnuala, after we take this break.
The Donegal senior hurlers are in Carrick-on-Shannon this Sunday for the League Division 2B final. Meath provide the opposition for Mickey McCann's side as the county also chase promotion. Join the Highland team for live match commentary this Sunday from the 2 p.m. throw-in in association with the Northwest Premier Bathroom and Tile Store. Bathroom and Tile Boutique, Bridge End.
Are you still struggling with slow and unreliable broadband? Imagine is connecting thousands of homes to high-speed broadband in your area right now. So why wait? With Imagine rated excellent by Trustpilot, you'll soon be working from home with ease, streaming your favourite shows and sports uninterrupted. Join the thousands of connected homes and businesses today at imagine.ie. Service subject to availability, terms and conditions apply.
An bhfuil méidir cliste agat agus gan is agad canas tús a chur lenne a úsáid? Clóir le high price plan méidir cliste Electric Ireland Home Electric Plus. Agus féach ar an méid foiineh a úsáidan tú gach mí, gach lá, nó fiú gach uirchlig. Is tús cílver chun dúsáid foiineh a laidú agus chun an tarva is mó a bhaint as the véidir cliste. Le clóru, cuairdaí Electric Ireland Home Electric Plus. Tá méidir cliste agus contas ar lína riachtanach. Caithí ceithre bhí imacht thart sulla mai teachtar na feimine seo. Tá termíos canílacha I bhaim. Féach ar electricireland.ie.
The choices we make determine where we're going. Where will your choices take you? Visit Kelly's Toyota, Letterkenny or Mount Charles and join the thousands of Irish drivers who swap diesel for Toyota hybrid electric, lowering their emissions and fuel costs. We've Ireland's widest hybrid electric range, including the Toyota CHR and Yaris Cross. Don't miss out. Order today at Kelly's Toyota, Letterkenny or Mount Charles. You'll never take a wrong turn with Toyota. Built for a better world.
With passengers boarding for the holiday of a lifetime, please go woo!
Highland Radio wants to send you on the holiday of a lifetime.
Worth 10,000 euros.
Plus $5,000 spending money. Woo!
Get your ticket now at highlandradio.com. Answer the question and start packing. Start packing.
Draw takes place Thursday, 6th of April on the 9 till noon show.
Start planning your ultimate getaway. Only on Highland Radio.
Ooh.
Like cracking Easter offers from Aldi? Fresh hot cross buns in store now, and from 23rd of March, save 20%, only 99¢ while stocks last. Medium Easter eggs, including Cadbury mini eggs and buttons, save 33%, only 99¢. And from 23rd of March, save up to 57% on this week's Super 6 fresh fruit and veg offers. Turnips and mange too, only 49¢, which saves even more of your Easter bunny money. Nah, I don't like it like that. I love it. Aldi. Every day amazing.
Okay, and that means we welcome into studio Michael Leddy, writer and blogger. Hiya, Michael.
Hello, Greg.
Good to have you with us. And also, Fionnuala Rabbitt's with us. Hi, Fionnuala.
Hi, how are you?
Good stuff. Good. How are you?
Tipping away nicely, thank you.
That's good. What about you? How was your week, Michael?
My week was good. I was saying to Fionnuala before we came in, I watched almost no TV at all.
That's a good week, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a good week, but I have things to talk about. But yeah, I didn't really watch much. But that always happens. We've said this before. I know with me in the spring and into the summer, the hours I spend goes right down.
Because we have the beautiful bright evenings and hopefully we have some good weather. In fact, there's potentially some good weather on the way too. By contrast... I've got 2 A4 sheets from Fionnuala.
I know. I have no
You've
life.
never been busier.
I have no life.
You've never been busier. Like.
Thank you for highlighting that. Thank you for highlighting
But
that.
always draw
attention
I've
to
very
these
little
things.
going on.
We've never been busier.
I know.
And you still
I know,
manage.
but still my evenings,
commitment. Commitment.
It is. My evenings are full. Some of the stuff I have watched a while ago, but we just haven't gotten around to it. So I kind of just leave
I know
stuff
that,
on it.
I
But
I wouldn't mind one with
always like my
Clarkson
TV.
Farm because I think that's a really interesting program in that, like, I know it seems to have multi-generational appeal. Maybe lots of shows do, but I know really young people that love it, you know, and then everything in between, and to older people as well. Do you like it? And if so, what's its attraction?
It's one of those programs that I do really enjoy, and I don't know why. Because if on paper, first of all, not a big Jeremy Clarkson fan. He's a bit of a twat.
Neanderthal.
His level of arrogance is just unsurmountable.
That's what a lot of people like. But anyway,
But
go ahead.
In this, I've seen him on other things, and I don't like it. Like, I stopped watching Who Wants to Be a Millionaire when he took it over. I was like, oh, I can't be doing with them. Like,
he's better than Chris Tarrant, and I'm not a fan of his, by the way.
No, he doesn't do it for me at all now. But in this, there's something about it that's kind of endearing, because on top of the level of arrogance that he, goes around, you realise how much of it is just bluster. In that, because he's constantly making errors. And the fact that obviously he's producing this program and is allowing all of these, silly mistakes that he makes with the farming and different things like that. Or, he was driving a tractor the other day, and he had a machine on the back of it, and the 2 front wheels of the tractor were, he was practically doing a wheelie in this tractor, and he couldn't get it up a hill. And all the 2 boys standing there watching him going, didn't this guy drive for a living? And he, like, all of that is kind of allowed in it, which sort of makes him more endearing.
How much of it is scripted reality, do you think? Because Top Gear, I think we kind of all accepted that a lot of it was prearranged. It was scripted. Do you know what I mean? I've not really been able to figure out how much of this is
I'd say, do you know what this reminds me? And I'd say it's sort of done in the way of... which, of course, now I can't think of the name of it. Not necessarily that it's scripted, but remember there was an American TV program that was out, a comedy thing, and basically what they were given is the scenario.
Curb Your Enthusiasm.
What was that done?
But all, like, Made in Chelsea, the Kardashians, all of that is done in that way now.
Yeah.
Whereby...
Oh, I always think they're actually...
They set it up
I actually
beforehand.
think they're physically scripted.
Well, no, they're...
As in they're given the words.
Yeah, but the languages, I don't believe it. So I think the scenarios are laid out, and
Laid
then
out, and that's
the
well, that's what it
only
appears to me
reality
with
is
this.
how you work around...
I think so too. Yeah, I think it's an open secret. Yeah, it's an open secret.
Yeah, well, that's what this appears to be. It's fairly set up in that it's in this,
Actually, I think Donegal man was a script writer on one of those. We interviewed you on this. I can't remember.
Wow.
Script writer, you know what I mean? Controlling the narrative.
The narrative we're in.
Yeah.
Well, this is done very much, I would say, in that way. The one thing that's interesting about this, and I would love somebody to phone in or send in their comment, if they're actually involved in farming. Now, I have no involvement in farming whatsoever. Don't even... previous generations' family involvement, but nothing, on a current level that you'd sort of be able to say. But I find it fascinating, the farming side of it, not just like actually for some of the physical work that they have to do is ridiculous, but not only that is like with this now being so up to date, and he's talking about how the EU, they're going to lose the EU funding and re-supplementing it. In it, he's trying to open up a farm to fork restaurant in the area. It's all about the level of planning and different things that has to be done.
It definitely does highlight some of the issues facing farmers, like some of the commitments, pre-Brexit commitments the government gave in terms of replacing EU funding, for example, that hasn't come to pass. I did see a trailer where he does reference that as well. So in terms of the financial side of it, I think he probably actually gives a really powerful voice to farmers because it's done in a different sort of environment where it might land.
That's why I love to actually
never
hear
watch a
from-
program about farming.
Exactly.
We'll watch this.
Well, and this is it, and you're kind of watching it going, oh Lord, because one of the things that comes up is, and you'd have an awful lot of people who'd be very environmentally friendly, and he says himself, he was a big petrol head, but when it comes to the area that he lives in is an area of outstanding beauty, and I say now, I know you don't like the drone shots, but oh my God, it's stunning.
Listen,
it is stunning.
It's not that I don't. I'm not going to interrupt you, right? I watched 2 documentaries this week. One about Waco, which was really it was actually really quite good. It was kind of an old school kind of a one that had lots of original footage and stuff. And then there was another one, and it's just the obvious things that they do every time. The person asking the questions is not mic'd up.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of stuff. And I just wish they would change those things. I don't mind drones. It's just that when you know the opening shot...
Oh, I know that.
You know there's going to be an awful lot of filling here.
There's an overuse of it.
But it is a beautiful part of the world he lives in.
Stunning part of the world, which I've never even been there, but it's absolutely beautiful. But the thing is then, like, and they're very much trying to preserve it, and it's all about, you know, being careful. And his point is, you know, well, it's the farmers that make it beautiful because it's all these massive farms. And then they had a situation there, and one of the ones that I watched where they had badgers on the land, and they have some cattle. And if you have badgers on the land, you cannot do anything to their sets. I think is the underground homes that they have. So you can't do anything to the sets. You can't do anything to the badgers. But yet they can spread TB, which is a terrible thing. And you can't. Oh,
it has much to do with real farming as Chitty Chitty Bang Bang has to do with rallying.
Excellent.
From a farmer just in from all night lambing.
Excellent.
There you go. That's as I said, I know nothing about farming.
Thank you.
So
Keep them coming into us 086 60 25.
Absolutely.
Or as much as Ted Lasso is to do with football, maybe.
Well, probably. That's what I'm saying. You would wonder. I do think he's highlighting it, but then you're kind of like going, well, is any, you know, do farmers feel that it's easy for me to say, you know, going by that? No. But it's easy for me to say, oh, he's highlighting this and he's letting people know about that. But maybe it's a negative. Now, he did win some sort of a Young Farmers Award, but I don't know, again, whether that was just a
He's hardly a young farmer, though, is he?
Well, the young fella that's with him, who
fair
really
enough.
is the guy that's doing all the farming.
Okay, fair enough.
He's kind of taking instruction and direction, really.
I didn't realise... sorry, I do. You also realise how important other characters are in it as well, isn't it? You know what I mean? That they've built a set of characters.
Ensemble, yeah.
Have you watched it at all, by the way?
No, he doesn't appeal to me.
There's really only kind of the four main characters are in it. Do you know what I mean? Which is himself, his partner, and the farmer, the young farmer guy, Caleb. And then there's the money guy.
Yeah.
Who comes in and tells them why they're not
the voice of reason.
Who comes in and tells them why they're not allowed to do what he wants to do. And he says, like, as I said, with the badger situation.
I did watch the first episode, though, when he decided now sheep wasn't for him and he's going to cattle. And they went to buy the cattle. And, you know, all these all the cows and calves and bulls are all there. And he's got no idea what he's buying, how much he's spending, when the calves might be ready to do whatever you do with calves and all that kind of stuff. And then he has his financial guy there, you know.
Yeah, he does all the kind of the thing to make sure. It's a cross. That's what I'm saying. It is. I find it entertaining and it's interesting because the characters in it are interesting and there's a lot. Plus, it's very short. You know what I mean? It's like half hour, 40 minutes or whatever.
But the bottom line is between the jigs and the reels for someone who's had, you know, quite a remarkable career, whether you like him or not. It's at the sunset of his career now, anyway, because he's become a little bit toxic, and I don't think.
Has the plug been pulled on this?
I don't think he can rehabilitate himself. I think he's just been cancelled. And
I think.
You know,
but has this particular show been pulled?
No,
they're not sure about it.
I don't think it's going back. I don't think it's going back in production.
I know, but at the moment it's not. They're not.
No, but I mean for next year, I don't think
they're waiting and see maybe how the dust settles. But to Fanula's point, you says you couldn't watch it because you're not a big fan of his, right?
No, I don't.
But you would be the perfect person to watch it because I think both me and Fanula are in the same boat. He's not really our type of person either.
No,
you do start seeing different sides to him, and I'd just be interested to see a third person.
Perspective on it.
I mean, in fairness, to be honest, I would have thought previous to the current conversations or whatever that this has been very rehabilitating for him because you'd have a lot of people that was still, you know, at the time when the Top Gear went, it was because of things that he had said,
punched a producer,
slurs and physical attacks and that kind of thing.
He just wrote that letter, they wrote that article, probably rushed it or something, or maybe it's exactly what he thinks about Harry's wife.
Yeah, but it's also designed to stir up a bit of controversy.
Yeah, but it was horrendous.
It was horrendous, yeah.
And
horrendous.
It's just, if it wasn't for that, they would probably have already announced season 4 and you know,
season 3. Yeah, I don't know. He's very much I'd say you might be right. He's very much this kind of person who doesn't necessarily put a lot of thought into things that he's doing, that he kind of rushes head first into things, and you could well imagine him based on even just based on the show, when you see him sort of sitting around talking, which seems, as I said, scripted in the sense of that the scenario is scripted, but it does feel very natural.
From the heart, yeah.
Kind of conversations that they're sitting around having at different times, at different
I'd
points.
say he's aware of his persona, though. I mean, I'm sure it's well crafted. He knows what people expect of him, so
but
he
does
delivers.
have his money in. Like, he has his money in this. He is... Like, it is his money on the line if things go wrong or if he makes bad decisions. Now, it's probably offset by the billions Amazon are probably giving him, but it is a real thing he's trying to do.
Yeah, I mean, in fairness to him, I suppose he has his own personal money, so he doesn't necessarily need the farm to make a load of money. You know what I mean? He can afford to throw money at it. He also probably gets, people are sending him machinery to use in the same way, the way just to be seen.
That
to be
Lamborghini tractor, perhaps.
Exactly. I would imagine he didn't pay a lot for the Lamborghini tractor. But I'd say they send him stuff, the way along the way. Because, but I think...
What would you give it out of 10 overall then?
It's because it's definitely worth people sitting down and doing. I actually do enjoy it. And most people I know that watch it, even when they dislike things on it, enjoy watching it, if you know what I mean. It's one of those things that you definitely give it like an 8.5, 9. Like, you just kind of sit there and it just sort of, like, it is
entertaining,
sometimes
Michael.
funny.
It's entertaining.
That's what I mean. It's entertaining. There's sometimes funny. They had... The calving was going on, and you were like, it was ridiculous the level of drama they'd hyped up for this thing. Like, you would think it was the first cow that ever calved in its life. That kind of a crowd. Like, it is entertaining. It's also, as in, from my point of view, not knowing anything about farmer, what appears to be factual in it, and I say what appears to be because I don't know, but when they're talking about some of the things that the farmers are going through in the UK in particular, you're just like, I mean, there was one woman that they spoke to. You can't do, like I said, you can't do anything about badgers because they're preserved species or whatever, protected species, but they've got TB, and this woman they'd lost half their herd, and there's absolutely nothing that they can do
that's
to prevent badgers. And they're like, this is something that's going to have to be addressed, as in, you don't want people going out badger baiting, but you also need to have a way in which you can cull the population or do whatever.
Why are they protected, by the way? Why are badgers protected? They're not
apparently
rare.
Because of badger baiting, which was a disgusting thing that was going on now, in fairness. It was like nighttime going out, just shooting them and that kind of thing. So I think they ended up on a protected species list, and then now TB is becoming more rampant in the UK.
All right. Wishing all the staff and students of PCC Falcarra the very best of luck with their 4-night sellout musical, Thank You for the Music, which started last night in Amerclan in Gweedore. It was a fantastic show, and we are all very proud of them. There's amazing stuff, Michael, isn't there, going on in and around the county? We've talked about it.
We have, but it's true.
I come at this like completely raw. I've never been really involved in anything like that. There, I don't really have any friends that are as such. So I go, and it's just like, I'm eyes wide open.
Yep.
But the few things, like the 5 or 6 things that I've been to over the last while, like they're just done at such a high standard. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
They're operating at a really high level, aren't they? And it sounds
it's a great night out.
It is. Yeah. But there's none of the disasters or the kind of stuff you might have expected going into it. It's all done to such a professional high standard. Well done, everyone. The first night's out of the way. You can enjoy it now. I presume the opening night's the most difficult, is it?
Yes, it is, because you just never know. You do your dress for every show, whether it's a musical or a play, and you get a lot of things out of the way. But you don't.
Is that dress rehearsal, Fionnuala? I don't know.
I'd say so.
I'm using the
yeah.
You and I's dress rehearsal.
But
the thespians in the room.
Yes, that's what. Okay, but you don't really know until you're doing it in front of an audience. You just don't know.
Yeah, where the laughs are going to land.
Yeah, exactly.
Comedy,
if there's
or
laughs,
where people will stand up and clap if it's music.
Yes, you just don't know. Yeah.
Watch the 10-part series The Night Agent on Netflix. Really enjoyed it, and if you like white conspiracy story, I presume that's like maybe Watergate, I don't know, Secret Service and FBI stuff, you'll like this. Reminds me of the Michael Douglas movie The Sentinel from 2006.
Oh, right. So, I see that it's gotten a very early renewal from Netflix, which hasn't happened in a while, and they're very excited about it. So that is something that's gone a bit higher on my watch list, my potential watch list. Yeah,
landed last week.
Yes, and it's already been renewed, and that hasn't happened with a Netflix thing for a while, because the streaming services are all kind of in free fall at the moment, and lots of things in America are being cancelled, and there's kind of big question marks over the future of streaming, not per se Netflix, but the other streaming.
When they started going like $4.99 with ads and stuff, you would make you wonder how sustainable that market is as oversubscribed as it is in terms of services.
Yeah.
Because you have to have content, don't you?
You do, yeah.
I mean, you know, I switch off very... Like, if you said to me, right, you can't have Netflix anymore, I'd be gutted, but it would only because of Cocomelon. Oh, my God, absolutely love Clarkson's Farm. Everyone in this house loves it. I think it is that type of one. Yes, tell Fanula, Jeremy's farming is great crack to watch. So, people are agreeing with you, except for the poor person
who is a farmer.
Who's
an actual farmer.
It's very busy time of the year with the lambs at the moment, morning till night, and the whole family have to get involved. Right, I want to let you know of a really important coffee morning that's coming up. It's Run for Ella, and it's supporting Children's Health Foundation Crumlin. It takes place this morning. And in fact, we're in the middle of it now. It's been going for an hour. Friday the 1st of March, it's in O'Flaherty's Bar, up until 3 p.m. And as I say, it's in aid of Crumlin Hospital. So if you want a cup of coffee, a cup of tea, a bun, or what have you, and you want to support Crumlin Hospital, and you want to run for Ella, which is supporting this coffee morning, get along to O'Flaherty's Bar up until 3 p.m.
The county's #1 talk show, The 9 till Noon Show on Highland Radio.
We at Highland Radio love Irish music, and we want to show our support. Throughout Irish Music Month this March, in partnership with Hot Press Magazine, we're asking you to support the Irish musicians, artists and bands who make every party, every drive home and every day magic. That's right. To celebrate Irish Music Month on Highland Radio, we're asking you to support Irish artists and musicians by buying Irish albums, Irish tickets, Irish t-shirts and Irish music merch. Irish musicians have shown that they are right up there with the best in the world, so let's support them by buying Irish. Proudly supported by Highland Radio, Hot Press, IBI and the BAI Sound and Vision Fund.
The Rafo Pipe Band Tractor Run will take place this Saturday, 1st of April from Rafo Mart at 12 noon. Registration is from 10 a.m, €20 per vehicle. Open to all types of tractors, cars and lorries. For inquiries, telephone 086 66 800 41.
There's a big freeze on the way, and it's good news for anyone thinking about changing their home energy. Because Calar are putting their prices on ice with a 2-year price freeze when you switch to Calar LPG. A cleaner alternative to oil, Calar gas is ideal for cooking, hot water and heating your home. So, switch today at calargas.ie, and very soon the only thing feeling the chill will be your bill. Terms and conditions apply.
Don't miss Jimmy Buckley at the Highlands Hotel Glenties on Good Friday, 7th of April. Doors open at 8 p.m. with early dancing to Conor O'Donnell. That's dancing to Jimmy Buckley at the Highlands Hotel Glenties on Good Friday, the 7th of April.
Highland Radio time checks with Expressway. Travel route 32 from Letterkenny to Dublin. Expressway, bringing you the time at...
Time's 11:25. Sad news during the week, Michael. One of the leading lights in British entertainment passed away suddenly but peacefully.
Yeah. Yes, Paul O'Grady. We were just chatting about that off air. Yeah, and it was very much surprising because, again, not somebody that would be hugely on my radar, but I wasn't aware that he was ill. I was like, he was working
so much.
He was working.
His career,
he was busy.
Yeah. More latterly, I think he's worked with animals. He's love of dogs or what have you.
But again,
I think there's very few people who don't know who he is.
Yes,
whether you've actually even seen a full TV program. He's been around for so long.
Lily Savage was his alter ego.
Yeah, big time. And again, like Lance Riddick or whatever last week, not a person who is of any great age.
No, just 67.
Yeah, exactly. You don't expect to hear that. So again, that's what they're all saying in all the news stories. That was unexpected and peaceful. But yeah, very surprising news.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of people listening will have been fans of his, casual fans, you know what I mean, that it's just another face that
He just
disappears from the TV.
Yeah, well, he started off besides the Lily Savage persona, but he used to always be on the morning show in This Morning and that kind of thing.
Took over Blind Date with Lorraine.
Took over that few of those shows from Cilla Black when she had stepped down. I think they were great friends back in the day, kind of come from the same type of area and same type of background.
I think at that time I seem to recall that either she thought he would be the only one she'd be happy replacing him, or I can't remember.
Yeah,
I
they were
remember
very
reading
good
there was
friends,
this-
I remember
there was
back
sort
at
of
the
like
time.
she handed it to him almost, even though I think
Yeah.
she died in 2015, and I think he took, is it 205 or 2015? Definitely ended in a 5. He took it over then 2 years later.
Okay.
17, probably 17. No, I don't know. Anyway, it was 205 and 207, or 15 and 17. But yeah, I think, they didn't want, she wouldn't have wanted necessarily anyone else taking it bar him because they were such good friends.
Yeah.
Anyway, again, sad news.
Sad news,
People
yeah.
be affected by that stuff. Not quite like a personal loss, but it upsets people.
Right. Because, yeah, you're absolutely right. People like that, you take these people into your life because
Yeah.
somebody who's been around for decades and it's suddenly, as you said a minute ago, they disappear then.
And do you know what
they're
I mean?
gone. It is a loss,
Be really careful with as well, especially if you've got young people, because there's a few high-profile musicians that we wouldn't really be very aware with, or YouTubers, and for a lot of young people that watch them endlessly or listen to them endlessly, I remember when Tupac was shot or Biggie was shot, and I was a bit older, so I was able to process it. But young people too get affected by their heroes. Their
You get an emotional attachment. You do. You definitely do. Particularly for someone who's in light entertainment again, because with the work that he did over the years, it's kind of his personality. He's not an actor. He was putting on a persona, but still, it's sort of a chance where you can make a connection.
And you only get that successful if you present a lot of who you are, and what you are.
Yeah.
Because people see through fake.
They totally
very,
do,
very
yeah.
quickly.
Oh,
Big,
yeah,
quick,
they came
big time,
across
big
as
time.
very natural
Big
and
time, yeah.
warm and that kind of thing, which
Yeah.
I think is what, as you say, people get a great affection for him then because they feel they know him personally.
Yes.
So I would recommend, I'm not doing a review of it, but I would recommend the documentary on Netflix surrounding the Waco.
Yes,
I
okay,
couldn't
yeah.
bring myself to watch it.
Excuse me. I mean, obviously, I remember watching that unfold. I never realised it went on for over 50 days.
Oh, no.
But it gives a real insight into some decisions that were made, what went on inside. There's audio and visuals that haven't been broadcast before, and it just timelines it and breaks it down with great access to people involved in it, not journalists necessarily or talking heads who watched it on the news and then are talking.
But they were on
about
site.
it. But it's only 3 episodes, but it's really good. It's a good old.
It does
school,
sound-
It's a good
yeah.
old school documentary, because they try and reinvent kind of how you do those types of things. And
Might give that a spin actually,
Not
because it
sure
is an
you can.
interesting.
It really is entertaining, and
Yeah.
it's. Remember, we've talked in the past, Fionnuala, about stuff that we knew happened or we lived through, and then you see a documentary on it, and you see it, and you see it in
Yes.
much greater detail.
That's what I was just going to say. We were talking about it yesterday in the canteen because a few people here have seen it and enjoyed it and gone through it. But I was amazed, which I always am, because I always assume everybody's as old as me. I was amazed at all the amount of people around here that didn't know about it. You know, the way that it hadn't really registered with them whatever was going on in their own lives at the time, or people are doing different things. It's almost 30 years ago now, I think, since it happened. So people, some of these people weren't even alive. Their parents probably weren't even married. There's 1 or 2 of them so young here. But it was amazing how many of them didn't know. It's one of those things that when it's something that you remember watching on the telly nearly live as it happened, it was one of the first things that I can recall. Like the 90s was one of those times where suddenly everything was live. It was like we were watching the war in Iraq live. We were watching this live. We were watching the trial like all these things that kind of happened in the 90s that suddenly were
immediate. That's a very good
you
point,
were like
actually,
in
yeah.
the middle of it.
They were immediate, yeah.
Whereas previously, before that, you watched 2 seconds on the news or the minute and a half or whatever the story was on the news. Whereas this, if you went to any of the
rolling news channels,
rolling news channels, they were helicopters outside it going over it. They were there talking to people on the ground for the whole time, talking to the neighbours, talking to whatever. You remember all those kind of things.
What I found really interesting about it is there's a couple of the Davidians that are still, they were interviewed, still loyal to what they were doing, and David himself. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, of course.
They haven't
Believers.
wobbled. But some of the decisions that were made, like to do with children and stuff. Do you know what I mean? Like there's some horrible allegations of what went on in there. But some parents were so faithful or so convinced of this person that they said goodbye to their children, sent them out, knowing they'd never see them again.
Jeez.
They even spoke to them on the phone.
Wow.
Whilst the children were outside. And then the negotiators tried to use the children then to coerce some of them out, and it was successful to some extent. But people could have left there at any point and doesn't stay there.
Yeah.
It was, you know, such was their
devotion.
I think that's why you always enjoy being the wrong word. Why it's always fascinating to watch some of these documentaries on cults that you watch. You know, like there's God's Country. There's a few other of them that Netflix have situated in America and all over the world, and you're kind of watching them. I suppose in the whole of your health, and you're not, you know, as in being not involved in them, and it is amazing just to see how quickly things move. And can start off with a lovely idea, and it kind of, you know, you might enjoy it, but you can kind of get the sentiment behind it of the reason why it started, and yet how quickly then these things can become kind of more dangerous and more corrupt, or at least
we get a great insight into the negotiators and then the sort of the FBI on the ground, and they had two completely different strategies. Really, the negotiators wanted to get everyone out. You know, there's no spoilers there at all, but I won't say much more that might discourage people watching it as it unfolds, because it's another one of those stories you think you know it, but then, you know, I thought it lasted a week or something. I didn't realise it lasted
so long.
Oh, yeah, no.
I know it went on for a while, yeah. One of the things I remember is that one of the American networks did a TV movie with Tim Daly playing the part, and they were in production before the siege was over.
Yeah, I can see how that could happen.
Yeah, they were in production. They were just
the info was there, and you want to be the first.
We'll write the ending when it happens. They said whatever's going to. They didn't know what was going to happen, so they just started filming.
All right, we're going to come back with the cinema after we take a break. Stay right where you are. We're in the company of Michael and Fionnuala. This is That's Entertainment, and much more on the way between now and 12. We'll get a doctor in for Michael as well.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook, and at highlandradio.com.
Attention all women in business leadership roles. Are you looking for an upskilling program that will give you the tools and strategies you need to succeed? Rural Enterprise SkillNet presents Leading From Within, an online professional development program combining one-to-one coaching sessions and online workshops. Starting 18th of April, register today at ruralenterpriseskillnet.ie and empower yourself to create change. Rural Enterprise SkillNet is co-funded by SkillNet Ireland and network companies. SkillNet Ireland is funded from the National Training Fund through the Department of Further and Higher Education, Research, Innovation and Science.
Charge into summer with TUI. Choose from a beach, cruise or city break, or Mexico flying direct from Dublin. Holiday sorted. TUI. Live happy.
Waterworld Bundoran is back for the 2023 season. Waterworld reopens this Monday, April 3rd and is open every day over the Easter holidays. Experience the 3-lane multi-slide, the Whizzer, the Wave Pool and Rapids, the Twister, Tornado and Gravity Speed Slides, the Pirates Galleon Ship and more. Booking essential. Get your tickets now at waterworldbundoran.com/booking and find us on Facebook.
At Centra this week we have great offers like Centra Fresh Hour Strip Loin Steak 360 gram only $7.50. Selected fruit and veg mix and match any 3 for $2.50. And in our Italian wine sale, Emotivo range only €8 each. Smart choices, choose Centra. Centra, live every day. Enjoy sensibly.
Charlie McClafferty Funeral Directors, serving Letterkenny and the surrounding areas for over 100 years. Charlie McClafferty Funeral Directors. Let our family take care of your family and guide you through a difficult time.
With passengers boarding for the holiday of a lifetime, please go. Whoa!
Highland Radio wants to send you on the holiday of a lifetime.
Worth €10,000.
Plus $5,000 spending money. Woo!
Get your ticket now at highlandradio.com. Answer the question and start packing. Start packing.
Draw takes place Thursday, 6th of April on the 9 till noon show.
Start planning your ultimate getaway. Only on Highland Radio.
Okay, you're very welcome back to That's Entertainment on the 9 till noon show. Right, we're going to do 2 movies, I think, now. We'll start with Shazam 2, and then we're going to talk about Tetris, the movie, which is on Apple TV. So we'll start with Shazam 2. Michael, Fionnuala, have you seen this one?
Yep.
Excellent. Okay, we'll start with you, Michael. Go ahead.
Yes, I went along to see this last week. DC superhero movie. Fionnuala, myself, and a few friends. I had not seen Shazam 1, so I ended up watching 1 and 2 back to back.
I hope you were facing the TV.
Boom, boom. There you go. Old ones are the best. Everybody said to me when Shazam 1 came out years ago, Michael, you'll love this, because I'm a big Marvel fan, as most with DC, because it's really Marvel-esque in the way it tells its humorous story of a DC superhero. And yet I didn't go wrong to see it, and I put off watching it, and I watched the two of them. I don't want to say it again.
Say it back to back.
I don't want to say it again because it's really make a joke.
Yeah.
But I ended up not enjoying Shazam 1, and I ended up really, really hating Shazam 2.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, they're just no fun.
Yeah.
Zachary Levi, I know this is. I'm not going to get. I can stop talking.
See
now.
how he's not taking a breath. Go on,
Yeah,
talk to
'cause
us
I know
why, and then we'll get the rebuttal afterwards.
It's trying to be a light, humorous superhero movie, very much in the vein of what Marvel has been doing successfully for a decade and a half at this stage. But for me, it just completely misses the mark. And it's interesting to look at the box office to see that people did not come out to see Shazam 2 around the world. It's a huge flop. Now,
is it a flop?
A huge flop,
Right,
yeah.
okay.
So much so that there's been some unpleasant interviews in the last week where they're blaming The Rock, saying Dwayne Johnson had a lot to do with it because his movie and the way he behaved, his recent flop, Black Adam, which wasn't as big a flop as this, but was still underperforming movie. He tried very much to shape the DC universe in his own image, and he wanted to kind of make it very much about him. And apparently he's not that easy to work with, is what's coming out in the... Zach Levi has said how they tried to have like cameos in each other's pictures because the characters are connected in the comic books, but The Rock was having none of that. And yeah, there's some ugly things that have been said in the last week, and then Zach Levi had to retract what he said, and he issued another statement saying he wasn't really blaming The Rock because obviously his lawyers, I suppose, had been in touch with him about what he had said. But yeah, so in terms of what it is, in terms of it being...
Well, before you get to that, just to its review, because, you know, I'm a Rotten Tomatoes fan, and it has an audience score versus... Now, I don't know how corruptible that is. I always presume it's spot on, but I always find it
the
actually...
audience one?
Yeah, I always find it actually works quite well for me.
Yep.
The critics, 224 critics give it 50%, 51%. 2,500 plus verified ratings, 87% of fans. So I think we might be in the Fanula camp there, but continue with your point there.
Well, again, it's easy enough. Like, the problem is it's very easy to skew the ratings on things like Rotten Tomatoes because you just set up fake accounts and you can make things, you know, they can ratings
So
bomb.
if you don't agree, it's all fake.
No, but I'm saying it's documented. I mean, you can. But anyhow, no, I just didn't find it particularly funny. Particularly the second one, I wasn't amused by its antics. And I think in terms of story structure, I have a real problem with the fact that both of the films use the same basic story. Their villain is only after the hero's powers. There's nothing at stake other than it's a case of a hero being attacked just because they happen to be there. It's not like the most recent Marvel movie, which was Ant-Man 3, which had a villain with a plan. Had to do A, had to do B.
Okay, get you. You want the hero to foil the
story. Yeah,
okay,
a story.
You, right.
Like it's like when in the 1980s.
But do they not want to take that power to unleash evil around the world?
But they don't tell us what it is. So you're just fitting in, and it goes back to I've always disliked this. Let's go back to the 1980s for a minute here. When I was watching shows like Magnum PI and stuff like that, I always preferred episodes of Magnum. Or, you know, any Private Eye show would say, where somebody showed up at the start and they had a case and they said, look, you know, my daughter's missing, my father's missing, somebody's murdered somebody, something's going to be stolen. Yeah. They also did these stories which is one of the reasons I never liked Murder, She Wrote, where Magnum just happened to be somewhere and something happened and he get caught up in it. And
I'm afraid Fanula's going to bite her tongue off.
I know,
if she has to bite it any longer.
It's not about this. To be honest now, you've moved into a whole new area there now. You dish Angela Lansbury, get out.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm done with you now.
I know, yeah. But anyway, no, I didn't enjoy this movie.
I'm out. Anybody that speaks ill of Angela Lansbury, I'm still not over her passing.
Yes.
Too soon. 95 was too young.
Too soon.
Too young for her to be...
What could she have done in the years
95
ahead?
was too young for her to be taken from us. Yeah. Do not dish her.
In fairness,
she
everyone,
is awesome.
You all enjoyed it the other night. You all amused by it, but I just couldn't wait for it to be over. I could not wait for it to be over.
He did talk during the movie, which is unlike him. I have to say now, first of all, again, I agree with Michael. DC comics books, their movies that they do are not a patch on Marvel.
They're not.
This one and Black Adam are in the direction of Marvel, as in they're kind of leaning into the humour and a little bit making fun of themselves, which is kind of one of the key things that Marvel always has going for a while, has a storyline. But I enjoy Shazam. It's by no means one of the top. I think it's a much better movie than Black Adam. There's a lot about Black Adam that I didn't enjoy. But I love Zachary Levi anyways. I find him very funny, so I love him in this. But I thought it was very enjoyable. It's more, and I've heard other critics talking about it and saying different things, and it's like... It's a type of movie, a DC comic book movie that you could actually bring kids to. A lot of the DC comic book movies you couldn't bring kids to because they're so dark. This doesn't have that kind of...
What about the lack of storyline Michael claims?
I know, but the storyline... See, that's which is why he should like this, because he normally likes when there's like a lot of subtext. There's a lot of subtext in these movies because...
No, there isn't.
Even though they are comic book movies, the whole thing that this has always been about, and the Shazam, the two of them have really been about family.
But it's not subtext, it's really there. It's like, that's the A story. They're not being subtle about it.
I know, but then I don't understand why you think there's no story. That's the story. It's all about him. The first movie is all about this young boy you know what I mean, who has been abandoned, and he's trying to find his place in the world, and then he receives these powers, and it's about how it then helps him in order to get close to this new made family that he's made. This is about him continuing with trying to hold on too tight.
But I've heard
he said they didn't market this as a family movie, and he blamed the box office on that.
Yeah, but if it's good, the word will spread.
But I was like, it's not a family movie.
It's one of those ones. You know the way it's one of those ones that I think it'll end up doing. That, as I said, people enjoyed it that went to see it, and I think what it'll do, as in, if we lived in a world where it went straight to video, it would do amazing. Yeah. You know the way it's one of those things that you'll find that as it's on the streamings, when it hits the streaming, when it hits the TVs and that kind of thing.
Soon, I think they've said it's going to be.
But I think too, I've heard the criticism of the more recent James Bond films that people didn't enjoy them. Some people didn't enjoy them because there was not quite a defined enough villain. Do you know that people like the fact that there would be a bad guy versus a good guy? Yeah. They blur the lines between good and evil, right and wrong.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So
I watched that last one. I thought it was terrible. I did not enjoy it.
I'm going to watch it. I started watching it a couple of times and fell asleep.
Haven't seen it yet?
No, but I'm going to watch it.
I like the villain in that. I like all 5 villains. In fairness, I do. Like
the people felt that they just weren't there enough. I didn't agree.
Strong enough, yeah.
I didn't agree, but I have heard it. Right. Okay, so out of 10, Shazam 2 only, 4. I'm asking for 4. Okay. Fanula?
No, I look at... If I'm taking it as a movie all on its own, you sit and as part of the franchise, it's in line. It wasn't as good as the first one. It's in line with it. Helen Mirren is in it. She's amazing in it.
Lucy Liu.
Is it possible they're flogging a dead horse with this comic book stuff now?
I don't know about flogging a dead horse, but I think that the mass market appeal is probably waning. I think there'll still be multi like Ant-Man did great.
Like there comes a point where they say we're not putting however many hundreds of millions into a film that there has to be this is about money here,
I know, but
Marvel's movies make
huge money on the comics. They make
huge amount of money.
Like the merch. How many kids do you know of a certain age, like of 7 or 8 year old boys that do not have at least one comic book pair of pajamas?
Sure,
you know what I mean? I mean, I know all of my nephews all went through their phases, and one minute they're Batman, next minute they're Spider-Man.
And it's worth saying about Shazam that it comes out at a time when, as we all know, the DC movies are in trouble. I mean, they've removed the people that were in charge when this movie was made. New people have come in. James Gunn has come in. There's a new regime coming. But before their new films can be released, obviously there are like 2 or 3 movies to come, including The Flash. The Flash is going to be a very controversial one because of the legal problems that the star of that movie had.
You see, no one. Just give me Batman, Superman, Iron Man, and you can have the rest. Captain America, maybe. I don't know. I just think there's too much.
Yeah.
Wonder Woman was good. Yeah. All right, anyway, so that's mixed reviews. So be very interested in if any of you out there have watched it so far. Shazam 2, let us know. 086 60 25,000 WhatsApps and texts. Right, Dave Young, the comedian's taking to the stage in Donegal very shortly. We're going to have a chat with him after these messages.
I remember you. Hi, this is May McFatridge here. Come and see me, the delightful Olivia Nash, in a happy medium at the Alley Theatre in Strabane on the 13th of April. Join me for a laugh as I enter the spirit world and reveal all. Tickets from the theatre box office or online.
Attention all sports fans. O'Neill Sportswear have an amazing clearance sale happening in their Strabane warehouse. For 4 days only from Thursday through till Sunday, you'll find everything you need to look and feel the best on the field. From jerseys to shorts, tees to hoodies, they've got it all. We'll see you there. O'Neill's. Live for it.
Are you a small business owner or a startup having issues getting finance? Microfinance Ireland can help. We are a government-funded lender who provide business loans from €2,000 to €25,000. From bike shops to boxing clubs, cafes to creches, we've provided people all over Ireland with the funds they need to set up or grow their business. Find out how we can help you today. Visit microfinanceIreland.ie to apply or talk to your local enterprise office. Microfinance Ireland, helping small businesses with big ideas.
Tams opens with sweeping changes for farmers. For more in your Farmer's Journal, here's Paul Mooney.
Find out details on grants for animal housing, slurry storage, handling equipment and fencing. Border counties at risk as TB in Northern Ireland hits record levels. Minister plans for more acres places this year. Sheep prices up as Easter buying begins. Farmers' questions answered on the new Suckler scheme. Plus in Irish Country Living, don't miss our 32-page Easter food magazine.
Inside this week's Irish Farmer's Journal, you cannot afford to miss it.
Brilliant news! The Whistling Donkeys are joining the Marty Party this Friday night in the Conry Hotel in Letterkenny for a night you won't want to miss. Donegal's finest, Donore, Eurovision winners Paul Harrington and Charlie McGettigan, Realtor dancers, TikTok sensation Koija, David James, Shauna McStravick, comedian Bernard O'Shea and many more. Get your tickets now at www.conryhotel.com or call 074 91 24369. Show starts at 8 o'clock.
Highland Radio weather updates with Ireland West Airport. Salah, Ninnis, the Beatles. You can now fly to Liverpool 8 times a week with Ryanair this summer. Ireland West Airport. Don't just take off, take it easy.
Mostly cloudy today with spells of rain or drizzle, heavy at times. Temperatures 10 to 12 degrees with moderate north-west breezes developing. There'll be mist and low cloud on hills. Now, again, I think it's great here in the Northwest that we have some of the best acts and the best shows coming to our region. I think historically, at least, it felt that we had to travel great distances to see the best, but not anymore. Among those visiting our region is Dave Young. His show Live and Laughing is coming to the Abbey Hotel on April 9th, and he joins us on the programme now. Good morning to you, Dave. You're very welcome on to Highland Radio.
Good morning, Greg. It's lovely to meet you. I see we've the same barber.
Yes, indeed. I only need to go and see mine because I have a little bit of growth, but I have to say you look resplendent with your haircut. If I can
thank you
call
very
it that.
much.
Okay.
You know, I spent all night doing my hair and I came out without it. Can you believe that?
I know.
And they reckon, I don't know whether you know this, Greg, but they reckon that if you go bald in the front, it means you think a lot.
Yes.
And if you go bald in the back, it means you're sexy. But
Right.
if you go bald all over, it means you think you're sexy.
I get
That's what
you.
they say.
Yeah. Where did you go bald first, I wonder?
I think it was in Dublin.
What a
game of poker that was.
I was
I'll
going to
never
say
forget
that
it.
city will do that to you. Come here, Dave. You know you're going to have a lot of fans that follow your work and are big fans of yours. I'm going to delighted to get to see you locally in the region, and also you're acquiring new fans as you go along because I think your work's relatable, isn't it? And I think one of the greatest talents, and there's a few comedians have it, is to talk about things that are very relatable and make you laugh. Do you know what I mean? Some people do it in different ways. Well, Peter Kay would be one. I don't know if you would sort of align yourself in that kind of an area, but he talks about stuff that was that goes on in your life right now. But you never realise how funny it is till he relates it. But you're in a different space, but you like to observe, don't you?
I do, yeah. And I also like to sing and I like to do impressions. And my favourite bit of the show is taking people out of the audience and bringing them up with me, you know, because that's what keeps the show fresh. Every time I play a new show, it's different people, it's different audiences, and I don't even know what they're going to do. You know, I've got some routines I do with them, but I like, you know, making it, how would you say, I like to keep it fresh, you know, so no two Dave Young shows are the same.
But that's brave, isn't it, Dave? Isn't it? Because you know you're always have a sense of control, but you are risking it a bit, isn't it? I mean, like it's not everyone would have the confidence to do that.
I couldn't be a comedian that goes A, B, C, D. You know, I start here and then I say this and then I do that. I can't. I know how I'm going to start. I know roughly the ending. I have a few different endings, but what happens between point A and point B is a bit of a free-for-all, and that's where the energy comes, and that's where the crack comes. Because even I don't know what's going to happen at a Dave Young show.
Which I imagine keeps it fresh for you. This is not a criticism of anyone else, but yeah. I think I would prefer that than sort of having a set that you kind of stick to and taking it all different places. You know what I mean? You've got, because we're all different, aren't we? I mean, we're all different around this country.
No, we're all completely different. And in an audience, so there could be 100 people, there could be 1,000 people. You don't know where they are in their head. So, you know, somebody might be going through a breakup, somebody might be on a diet, you know, there's different things going on. So what I do is I'll start talking about a subject and then you sense, are they with you? And then if they're with you, I'll stay on it. But if I sense for a second they're not with me, I'm gone and I'm on to something else. And I need that freedom. My poor roadie does be all over the place. He's like a fortune teller because he's sitting there with the laptop and he's got all these different music cues. And he's like there going, what's he talking about now? And it's that frenetic.
Yeah.
But that's what makes it fun and that's what makes it fresh. You know?
Organised chaos?
Yeah.
Or disorganised chaos?
Pretty much. Pure crack. That's the whole intention of the show. Yeah. It's pure fun. To take you away for an hour and a half, an hour and 3/4, some nights 2 hours, from wherever your problems are during your day. Come see Dave Young, laugh your head off, and then it's an escapism thing. And for me, I don't consider it a job. I get to show off for a living.
Yeah, right. Other than, you know, as you say, there's a lot of spontaneity and we don't know where that's going to go, and that's what makes it attractive. Every show is different. So if you saw Dave Young yesterday, you're going to get much of a different show today, right? But what are the outside of that, what are the mainstays do you think that the audience, you draw the audience to you? I've heard words like, you know, that you're very relatable, you know what I mean, that you talk to people's, you know, experiences of lives or what's around them. And maybe I misphrased that a little bit earlier on, but talk to me a bit about that.
I think the reason they relate to me is first of all, I can't talk about a subject unless I would find it funny personally, you know, and there's a lot of subjects I wouldn't go near because I'd find them distasteful. But I do sneak in some jokes because I love jokes. A lot of comedians nowadays don't tell any jokes, but the way to get them in is sneak them in. You know, but you can't beat a good joke. Jokes are great. Like I love, you know, the old one about the 3 guys who die and go to heaven, and Peter meets them at the gate, and he says to the first guy, "What happened, you?" And he says, "Well, I came home early from work, and there was 2 glasses of wine, and I don't drink, and there was a cigarette in the ashtray, and I don't smoke. I said, she's having an affair. So I got the big freezer I was after buying in Power City, brought it to the top of the roof, threw it off, and as I threw it, I slipped and I fell, and that's why I'm here." And Peter says, "I see." Says the second guy, "What happened, you?" He said, "I was sitting in me car at traffic lights and someone threw a fridge at me." And he says to the third fellow, "What happened, you?" He said, "I was sitting in this fridge minding my own business." See, stupid, harmless jokes, but they're funny. I love jokes. I love jokes, and I love getting jokes in. I love taking the piss out of, you know, people like Donald Trump or current things as well. Some of my biggest comedy heroes, I got to play my favourite, which is Billy Connolly. I got to play him in a movie called When Harvey Met Bob, where Brendan Gleeson played Bob Geldof. It was all about Live Aid, 1985. You're probably too young to remember this, Greg.
Thank you.
You're probably still in nappies going, Live Aid, you say? What's that? But
even wearing nappies quite late in life, but yeah, I take it, I appreciate it. It makes me feel a little bit better about the hair situation. But the thing,
well, it's the baby face, and the beard is fantastic. I didn't know whether your head was upside down, but it's not, and it looks lovely.
I wanted to look after hair, right? And the only way I can do that is by way of a beard. I want to moisturise my hair. I'm sorry, I want to have shampoo. I have shampoo now. I could never have it before.
Well, I have shampoo. It's called Shoulders.
no need for the head.
But you know the funny thing, I started to go bald when I was in my 20s, and I was worried sick about it.
Did it bother you? Because it never bothered me. I shaved my head probably long before I needed to.
It bothered me because, being so young, and my idol, my pop star idol, was a guy called Paul Young.
Yeah,
you're probably too young to
delightful
remember
head of
him.
hair, a
Wherever I
lovely
lay
mullet.
my hat and all that.
Of course.
And he'd a head of hair about 2 foot off his head.
Yeah.
And I had decided they can put a man on the moon, so I'm not going to go bald. I was thinking we can do all these things. They can do laser eye surgery. Can do a million things. So I'm going to hang on to my hair. And I tried everything. There was a product on the market called Rogaine. And they found that people with high blood pressure, when they gave them this, it brought back their hair. So they started selling it as a hair replacement thing. And of course, I took it, but it had a reverse effect. If you didn't have blood pressure problems, this thing gave you blood pressure problems. Yeah. And I remember going to the doctor and he said, Dave, you'll be the hairiest one in the coffin. He said, get off that completely.
It's funny.
I tried everything. And then one day I watched, I think it was Die Hard with Bruce Willis. He kind of made baldness cool again.
Brilliant.
And I'd get into the shower and I put the shaving foam on here and I start shaving and I said, feck it. And I just kept going.
And that was it.
And since then,
brilliant.
That's it.
It's
so
funny,
any bald guys out there, if you're going, go in your turn.
Enjoy it.
Just get rid of it.
Also, it's actually quite interesting. It was a treatment for blood pressure that Viagra was discovered in, and there was something that they noticed in the waiting room of the research centre, and it evolved from there, but we'll not go in it today.
And what did they notice in that waiting?
That's all we have time.
It's rude to point.
Hey, come here, Dave.
What are you thinking about?
We can't wait to see you up here. You're in the Abbey Hotel, Donegal Town, April the 9th. It's a beautiful
Easter
setting.
Sunday. Look, you can grab a ticket. The tickets, I think, are only €15. Grab a ticket and come to the show. It'll be my first time in Donegal. I'm a virgin to Donegal, so it's my first time. I'm dying to get up there. The Abbey Hotel is a beautiful hotel. When it's finished, it's going to be really nice. I can't wait to go there, and it's going to be great fun. I guarantee you the tears will be running down your legs. You'll have great crack.
Dave, come here. Lovely chatting to you.
See you Easter Sunday.
You're a good sort. Take care of yourself. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
indeed.
Greg. Thanks for having me.
Dave Young, live and laughing. Fanula, thank you. Have a lovely weekend.
Thank you very much.
Love having you on your programme. Michael, thank you as always.
Thank you.
Thanks for both
for
of
your
you.
last day.
Yeah.
Yeah, as this is your last
Angela
show.
Lansbury. All right, take
straw.
care of yourself. John Bresson's coming up next. The news will be just a minute late, and then it's JB around the Northwest.
The Donegal Senior Hurlers are in Carrigan-Shannon this Sunday for the League Division 2B